start happened, turn 1 happened, and suddenly it was like 50.
Great start from Oscar Piastri, down the inside of Verstappen, forces Verstappen wide, the dashboard cuts the chicane.
You have been given a 5-second time penalty for the incident at turn 1. Head down.
Wow, that is
Max.
lovely.
No comment.
You can't share fully your opinion because it is not appreciated apparently, or people can't handle the full truth.
And once again, when the chips are down, Verstappen steps up to the plate as he wins the Japanese Grand Prix.
That is insane. That is insane.
Yes, let's go!
It is the Miami Grand Prix, and there are so many storylines.
McLaren is the fastest car, that's clear.
It's the McLaren of Lando Norris, who is in the wall.
It's clear there are things that have changed since last year when I was feeling very comfortable, and that's not allowing me to do as good of a job this year.
Then you've got Ferrari and Hamilton. Yes, he won the sprint race in China.
It's a first win for Lewis Hamilton in a Ferrari.
But the rest of his season's been pretty poor from his level.
I just lacked grip, I lacked good balance. I was just fighting the car every corner.
Us not even talking about Norris against Piastri against Verstappen in terms of the title.
Oscar Piastri wins the Saudi Arabian Grand Prix and takes the lead of the Formula One World Championship. A party in the city where the heat is on all night on the beach till the break of dawn. Welcome to Miami and welcome to round 6 of the Formula One World Championship. I know, I'm so sorry. And yes, if you tuned in on Friday, I have just regurgitated and done that again. But I had such good feedback from inside the commentary box I found myself in. I had to do it again. But Rebecca Clancy of the Motorsport Network, who's alongside me, you're giving me a bit of the side eye.
I wish there was a camera in here so you could see the reaction of Andrew Benson sat alongside me. Harry, do you know that song is as old as you are?
Can you believe it? 97 that came out on Will Smith's album.
And there's still no one has written a song about Miami since, apparently.
Why mess with perfection on that front? Hey, Andrew?
Absolutely right, Harry.
I mean, Andrew, we all know, you were out on the beach till the break of dawn last night, so you're quite enjoying this Miami vibe.
That's right, me down there with all the people partying. It's been it's an intense weekend. This actually, there's something about Miami, isn't there, Beck? That's there's a closeness to the atmosphere and heaviness, but an electricity as well, both metaphorically and physically. We're a bit worried about this afternoon, but we'll come on to that in a minute.
Yeah, we've had a huge deluge of rain this morning, which impacted the F1 Academy racing heading round. It's dried up now, and the sun is trying to peak out, but we are expecting some more rain around about race start time, which is less than an hour away. Track temperature at the moment 40.7 degrees, air temperature 26.6 degrees. We're about a 30-minute drive from South Beach in the Miami Gardens area, which is where this Miami International Autodrome is, around the grounds of the Hard Rock Stadium, home to the Miami Dolphins NFL team. And Beck, I think on the whole, most people agree we can take or leave the track, but as an event, Miami stands out quite nicely.
30-minute drive from South Beach.
This morning it was great.
Oh my
I had a great
goodness.
run this morning. Did you not have a good run?
No, I don't think I've done it in 30 minutes since ever.
Sunday was brilliant traffic.
Oh my goodness.
Okay, maybe not 30 minutes on the Friday. Add on maybe 2 hours.
I think a few times we've got out of here, it's been well over an hour. Anyway, yes, the vibe. It's very Miami vibes. As Andrew was saying, it has been relentless amounts of, not that I've been going to them, but there are a relentless number of parties happening. Everybody is here, all the sponsors, it's actually a bit of a task to try and keep your head on and keep focused on what we're all here for, which is the race in under an hour, because there are so many things going on. I found myself in a nightclub last night at a Cadillac event. Cadillac aren't even a team yet. They're just so excited to get on the grid and be here. And by the way, nightclubs aren't my thing.
I'm glad you added on the caveat. It was a Cadillac event. You weren't just at the nightclub.
Just randomly out partying. I'm 40 now. My days are well and truly behind me, and I'm fine with that. I'm absolutely fine with that. But it was, I don't really remember there being a event on a Saturday. It feels strange that they don't bother because they don't get the newsline outfit or the media that they want from it, because it gets consumed within, the track action takes over really from Saturday, Sunday. And now we're having events on a Saturday night, so it's been pretty relentless on and off track.
That's right, there's been email after email after email inviting you to this, that or the other. I did sack off the Cadillac party last night.
As promised on Friday.
Promised, exactly. I just couldn't face it, and I'm told though by someone who was there, you can probably back this up, that it was like a branding launch type thing.
Basically, yeah.
Even though I'd been in a press conference with the head of GM on yesterday morning, where they said they hadn't decided on any of their logos and branding and what have you, and apparently the brand that they launched was the Cadillac logo with the words Cadillac Formula One underneath. It's like, well, hey, I wonder how many thousands of pounds in marketing meetings they put into that one.
And
Shiny, flashy lights do cost a lot, Beck.
They immediately put it out onto Instagram as well, so I was stood there being a bit like, oh, does that mean I can go to bed now?
Well, that is how busy Miami has been for our excellent journalists alongside myself, Harry Benjamin. We're up in the commentary box. You're listening to 5 Live F1, by the way. We are building up to round 6 of the Formula One World Championship, the Miami Grand Prix. We've got the 1996 Formula One World Champion, Damon Hill, joining us for full race commentary. He'll be stepping into the commentary box shortly. But we've also got roaming around on the ground our pit lane reporter. Let's say good afternoon to Jenny Gatt.
Good afternoon, and it's a very muggy afternoon here in Miami. I'm on the actual track at the moment. The grid's starting to form as some of the engineers and mechanics start nosing around. Some tyres are here, but crowd a bit sparse at the moment. Most people are taking shelter under the cover because boosting. People were fanning themselves just to get a bit of cool. And to my right, a group of people have moved on to the grid, which we don't normally see. They're the priority response team for the National Security Guard. And there must be about 20 or 30 of them all walking down the side of me. I wonder who that possibly mean could be coming to the Miami Grand Prix.
Well, absolutely. It does bring all the stars and celebs out. Before we carry on with more F1 track, it's the final of the Madrid Open tennis. Let's head to Shoujo Saka. Jack Draper in action. How's he gone?
Jack Draper has just lost the final of the Madrid Open, I'm afraid, to Casper Ruud of Norway. It is the biggest tournament win of the Norwegian's career. So Ruud wins 7-5, 3-6, 6-4. For Jack Draper, it's been an excellent tournament, but just not quite good enough today. He will feel like it's one that's got away. He'd been in such excellent form, and without Yannick Sinner and Carlos Alcaraz here, and also Novak Djokovic going out early, Jack Draper would have really fancied winning this title. But when he wakes up tomorrow, he will be the world number 5, the first time he's broken into the world's top 5. So that is a good summer to look forward to for Jack Draper, but it's Casper Ruud who is the Madrid Open champion.
Absolutely, thanks Shoujo. So Jack Draper losing out then in the final of the Madrid Open tennis. You're listening to 5 Live, Formula One, building up to round 6 of the Formula One World Championship here in Miami for the Miami Grand Prix, which takes place around the grounds of the Hard Rock Stadium, home to the Miami Dolphins NFL team. And I mean, Beck, we talk a lot about how the events here are to another level, the track we can give or take, but we're going to be here for some time to come now.
We are until 2041. I think it's great, actually. It is a really fun event. I think there's a real energy about it. The drivers love it. They're all in great form. There's business to be done here. We all know it's sport, it's business, it's the mix, it's the where's the line. It gets a bit tricky sometimes. Liberty Media have done a great job. They're desperate to push into the US, big audience for them to tap into. And I think this was a key race for them. I think you can see that there's always that question, isn't there? Is it a sort of corporate race or is it a fan race? I'm not really sure with Miami. Sometimes it sort of sits somewhere in the middle a little bit. We know it's very impressive. You talk about it being around the Hard Rock Stadium. The paddock's in the middle of the field. It's incredibly impressive to stand there in the field and look up and around the stadium. You bring all your sponsors in, potential sponsors, and you say, look at the party that I can bring you to. Just sign on the bottom line and let's get together. So you can see why it's a place that business gets done. And I'm not surprised at all that it's had that big 10-year extension.
Perfect for all your schmoozing then across the weekend.
Loads of schmoozing.
Absolutely.
Yeah, absolutely.
Wouldn't have it any other way.
What else is there to do?
Well, I mean, talk about how they go above and beyond. We obviously it's already happened, and it happens at every race weekend. We have these the parade lap, the drivers' parade lap, and they go around on the track. And they had quite an interesting one for this weekend, Beck. You knew all about it before the rest of us.
Oh, obviously. I absolutely loved it. Nobody loved it more than my 5-year-old son, though, who is obsessed with Lego. So to explain, if you haven't seen it, and I highly recommend getting a clip of the drivers' parade, Lego have built life-size cars of each of the 10 teams. Each car had the relevant drivers in. One was driving, one was sat straddling around them at the back. And as you can imagine, when you put 20 competitive drivers into a Lego car, it was slightly silly. But it was brilliant viewing. It was really fun. The cars are so incredibly impressive. I went down and saw them, and genuinely I think it's one of the coolest things I've seen in Formula One.
I think Lewis Hamilton described it as one of the best parade laps he's ever done in his Formula One career. The best.
Max Verstappen said, I hope they go and sweep up the track afterwards, because they were all getting a bit close, weren't they?
It was nearly a full-blown collision.
And the Lego was glued down, but it's glue at the end of the day, and they were messing about, let's say. But it was really fun. It was actually genuinely fun. So I don't think I've ever watched a parade lap in my life, and we were all watching it.
Charles Leclerc was inching another car towards the wall, wasn't it, at one point? I think it was a Mercedes, wasn't it? And then I
think there was a Mercedes
pair tangle at one point.
Well, there was 3 cars. I think it was the Mercedes, I want to say the Alpine and the Ferrari. I think the Alpine might have been in the middle, and then the 2 others were coming in, closing in either side down. I think what was the slowest back straight I've ever seen in my life in terms of the chase. But there was a bit of contact there. I nearly thought at one point one of the cars might slide out and into the wall, but they all lived to fight another day, and they made it back round. So I think they quite enjoyed that one.
Maybe we might see them again.
We should be clear that they only do 20 kilometres an hour.
Yeah, there is. But still, that's 20 kilometres an hour in a car made out of Lego.
But do you know they had to move the driver's parade lap because of the rain? Because they're powered by batteries, and they were really worried if the batteries got wet, they'd short circuit. And so then they had to actually move, because the weather's been so unpredictable, and Benny's got a story about the rain for us. They had to move the whole thing. So it was I was just crossing into the paddock as the cars were coming through, and I was looking at my watch, and I was like, oh, what's going on? And then, found out it was the weather, which has been more than a little unpredictable today.
I mean, let's talk about the weather, shall we, Andrew? Because we've just seen some pictures on our screens, and we're looking outside the commentary box where we're positioned just on the inside of the final corner as they come into the pit lane, and there are dark clouds looming. And I think around race start time, which is 4 o'clock locals, that'd be 9 o'clock in the UK, we're expecting a little bit more rain possibly.
Well, actually the chances of rain at the start of the race have just gone down to 20%, so receding, but much more likely from 5 o'clock, between 5 o'clock and 8 o'clock, so that means it could hit sort of in the middle of the race. I was talking to one of the senior team figures earlier today, and they were saying that we had a massive rainstorm earlier today, around about lunchtime, just absolutely chucking it down, and they'd been watching the radar, and there was a front sort of dodging around the circuit but wasn't going to hit it by the looks of it, and then suddenly, like magic, this storm just popped out of nowhere and dumped its entire contents on the track effectively. So it's very unpredictable is the point. They are expecting rain to come at some point, but right now I have to say it doesn't look like it. The sky's relatively blue, mostly.
Well, there's a pretty dark cloud out of our commentary window.
Well, you can see that way. I can't. I'm looking at you.
Can't crane his neck that way, Bet. Come on, give him a shot.
But so I mean, obviously rain would really excite things up, but of course the amount of rain that we had both yesterday before the sprint and this morning means the cars can't run basically. So if that happens again, we're going to have a red flag and a delay and who knows what.
And there's also concern about lightning.
There is, because in here they have a very strict rule.
Very strict.
I don't know about lightning.
Yeah. So as soon as there's any threat of lightning, they'll pull the cars straight off the track, and they'll postpone the race. And I think, if I'm right, it's a delay of 38 minutes from the last lightning strike. I have to double check that. Benny, you can double check that. You love that sort of data. I think I was reading a story earlier about it. But yeah, as you can imagine, and for all of the right reasons, absolutely. So yes, there is the threat of lightning as well. It's not just the rain.
No, they are hot on that here, and the FIA have released some guidelines if we do get that kind of storm when we have either getting this race started or if it comes halfway through. I mean, we've had rain already this weekend. Let's chat a little bit about the weekend we've had so far, because it's a sprint weekend, Beg, so it comes thick and fast. Before you know it, we're here Sunday for the full Grand Prix. We had a sprint race yesterday, which was absolute chaos, really. Right from the off, we were down to 19 cars because Charles Leclerc found the wall on the way to the grid. But we had Kimi Antonelli setting records, being on pole for the sprints. Oscar Piastri muscling his way through at the start. But then it was Lando Norris who managed to claim the victory.
Yeah, the rain, wasn't it? Thank you for the rain. It made it lots of crashes, spills. I'll try and remember all the incidents. Alonso crashed, he got knocked off by Lawson. Sainz had an incident. It was absolutely action-packed. Yes, and then we had to delay qualifying, didn't we, for the main race because of it all. It all got pushed back, and then the qualifying got pushed back by 15 minutes. It was really impressive from Norris, though. He got really lucky, we have to be clear. He was one of the last to change onto the slick tyres, and he was, as we heard, a lot of dobbing going on, I feel like, this weekend on the radio by the drivers. Oh, so-and-so did that, and so-and-so did this. And it's all for the benefit of the FIA listening. They're trying to get penalties and whatnot given out to their rivals. and you heard Norris on the radio saying, "Oh, there's loads of debris," and they pull out the safety car. Anyway, obviously didn't happen, but he got really lucky because just as he was in the pits, there was an incident and the safety car came out. So that very much helped him. It was annoying that they finished. They technically didn't, but they finished behind a safety car. It pulled in just on the last corner, and then they proceeded over the line. I think if Lewis Hamilton had a couple more laps, he felt like maybe he could have gone for the win. So it was a slightly anticlimactic ending. But before that, the preceding sort of 15 laps of the 18 were absolutely brilliant.
Yeah, normally it can feel a bit dull when it ends under a safety car, but actually that race had so much. Arguably, I'd call it one of the best sprint races we've had since they were introduced.
The best.
The best.
Yeah, the only
I mean, the bar is pretty low, let's be honest.
It is, yeah. The only competition was the Brazil 2021 sprint race, where Hamilton came from the back of the grid to finish 5th in that very famous race. Whoa, that's Ollie Behrman.
Yeah, so the sound you're hearing in the background, cars have now left the pit lane. They're on their way to the grid, and Ollie Behrman just trying to get his bearings to see how much grip there is on track. Nearly losing the rear end of his house with a big slide, but he managed to save it as the McLaren of Lando Norris has his car fired up and heads off into the pit lane.
Just to clarify and clear up, by the way, the number with 8 in it that Beck was talking about, I think from this document, says that once the race director is satisfied it's safe to resume the race, no less than 18 minutes prior to the expected restart time, the restart order will be published.
18, there you go, that makes more sense.
We'll keep you up to speed with all of that. Well, we did have a sprint race yesterday. The points are available to the top 8 in that, so it has changed the standings slightly coming in to this Grand Prix. Oscar Piastri's leading the championship, eaten into slightly by 1 point. He's now got a 9-point advantage ahead of his teammate Lando Norris. Max Verstappen a further 10 points back. Actually didn't pick up any points in the sprint in the end because he had an incident in the pit lane. He was released into the path of Kimi Antonelli's Mercedes and was given a 10-second time penalty as a result. That dropped him out of the points. Then George Russell is just behind him with Charles Leclerc rounding out the top 5. And over in the Constructors' Championship, McLaren lead the way with 203 points to their name. They are 85 clear of Mercedes. Then it's Red Bull, Ferrari and Williams currently leading that best of the rest battle in 5th, followed by Haas in 6th, Aston Martin in 7th, Racing Bulls lie 8th, with Alpine and Sauber separated by just 1 point all the way down in 9th and 10th in the Constructors' standings. But everybody getting a point on the board so far after 5 rounds and 1 sprint that we had in China. That's Carlos Sainz, who's just referring to some damp patches he's found out on the circuit as it continues to dry up from the rain we had earlier. The majority of it looks fairly dry for the time being, but of course those parts off the racing line will take a little while to drain. They have the sweepers out there as well trying to clear the water and aid that too. Let's talk about qualifying, Beck, from yesterday. After all the furore of the sprint race, they then had to go again for the important stuff, let's say. And it's Max Verstappen, but not by much. What was it, just over half a tenth of a second? He managed to steal pole?
I thought it was a pretty special lap by Max Verstappen. In the pod, I said that maybe it was in his top 10. I've thought about it, maybe I'm going to go with...
10 or
top 5. I've thought about it. I might downgrade it slightly to top 10. But I thought it was really special. I thought he was absolutely on the limit. It was millimetre perfect. And it had to be because the McLarens are so strong this weekend. Both Norris, both Piastri, they are looking so hot on it. That car is perfect. It's working exactly how those drivers want it to be. Max Verstappen had to come in and pull it out of the bag, and he absolutely did.
I mean, Andrew, it was a good pole lap, but is it up there with one of Verstappen's best?
One of the best, okay. I think. But I think, in a way, that qualifying session encapsulated the qualifying for the whole season. So there's a pattern emerging. The McLaren, certainly over a race distance, the McLaren's the best car, but or a better car than the Red Bull. And if you can get the perfect lap out of it, it's a faster car over 1 lap too. But as Andrea Stella, the team principal, describes it, it's not very good at cueing the drivers what it's going to do. And although people think that race driving is all about reactions, it's not. It's about anticipation. And if you can't trust your car or how it's going to behave at a certain point at the corner, you can't confidently take it to the limit. So what that means is that the McLaren drivers are finding it difficult to repeat on the limit laps. So they do a really good lap somewhere, like Piastri in Q2, for example, was his best lap. He couldn't repeat it in Q3. And Norris made mistakes at the last corner on both of his laps in Q3. And so that issue with their car is preventing the drivers from extracting its potential maximum. But of course, it's only a potential maximum. Now, of course, that raises the question, what would another driver do in the car? Would Verstappen have the same issue? We don't know. Would Norris drive the Red Bull as fast as Verstappen? We don't know. But all we know is that issue with the McLaren, which they're working on, they've got some upgrades coming to try to solve it, is what's allowing Verstappen this window where if he produces a perfect lap or a very nearly perfect lap, he can beat them, and that's what he did yesterday.
Should be worth mentioning as well, Red Bull bringing a little bit of an upgrade into the floor when it comes to Max Verstappen, who did claim his third pole of the season. Lando Norris will start alongside him there, and I feel like we need to get the driver guidelines at the ready, because going down into turn 1, that could be a little dicey.
I don't know if I know what the guidelines are half the time anymore.
They're in my bag, so it's all right.
Benny jumped straight onto the button there. There you go. Well, we always get it, don't we? It's going to be lap 1 incidents. Well, they're free to race, whatever. The FIA don't look too much on them, and then sometimes people go wide and then they get a 5-second penalty, as we've seen. So it is going to be very spicy into a very tight first corner, and I think we will definitely see someone going wide, and then, as I say, straight onto the radio, jobbing each other in.
Well, we saw it yesterday in the sprints with Kimi Antonelli, who started on pole. Oscar Piastri dived down the inside and squeezed Antonelli off. I was at an event last night where Toto Wolff, I think tongue-in-cheek, gave Kimi Antonelli permission to, fight back on that one if he gets the opportunity against Piastri during the race. But while the cars continue to go around and make their way to the grid, that is where we can find Jenny Gow.
Yes, good afternoon. It's getting a bit darker as the clouds roll in above me, but Damon Hill, 1996 world champion, right by me. We're right at the back of the grid, just watching the drivers go up. They find their their grid slots, and they actually cut their engines, and their engineers and their mechanics wheel them up to their grid slots. And this is Oscar Piastri just coming past us right now. Bright Papaya McLaren leading the championship. What do you reckon? He starts from 4th place.
Well, yeah, we've got a strange statistic, haven't we? No one's actually won it from the front row here. But whether he can win it from 4th, I think the problem for this race is going to be whatever happens. And I'm looking down towards the start in the first corner. I can see grey skies behind you. I'm actually in beautiful sunshine at the moment, but we're right between 2 weather systems, and the wind, every now and then I feel that cool breeze coming. So something may well be changing in this race. If it's not, then you've got a probable one-stop race, and it will be down to strategies whether McLaren can work as a team or not. They've got 2 drivers up there. You know, Max is amazing what he's done to get it on pole position yet again. He's 3 times pole position, but no one's ever won from there. But that's what they have statistics for. They're to be broken.
I was going to say, presumably you'd rather start P1 here?
Of course, yeah, absolutely. It's a massive advantage. Once you get into a train of cars, even if you're in the top 3, the dirty air affects the tyre performance. That's why it's so difficult for guys who are further down the grid to make progress. They might even have a quicker car, but as we're standing next to that Ollie Behrman, Ollie Behrman actually just driven his car right next to me, so that's what the noise is. An actual live engine rather than just the sound of trolleys.
Yes, they've switched it off now, thankfully, but you always get a bit of a hectic end if you come down this end of the grid. We're never at this end of the grid. It didn't worry you. How he said he was. How would you take this start? You've got Max Verstappen, Lando Norris, Kimi Antonelli, Oscar Piastri, George Russell and Carlos Sainz, the top 6. What would you do?
Well, you mean if I was any one of those? I mean, Kimi Antonelli, I think, is worth a mention. What a performance, what a star he's been this weekend, and he's right up the sharp end now. Great performance from him. So he didn't get such a good start in the sprint, and he will be a bit annoyed by that. So he's definitely out to get the best performance he's ever had. And the others are fighting, they're thinking of a championship. The top 3 are thinking of championship. So much to play for, but they know the start is all important. Max didn't get off the line well last time. He slipped back and he was annoyed by that. And Oscar Piastri got through, and then he got a penalty for trying to go on the outside. Similar kind of first corner here to Saudi Arabia.
Yes, I think everyone will look back at those last races and know that it's quite likely that someone will get their elbows out.
Well, they always do, Jenny. I mean, these guys, I'm sorry, they're very rude.
Right, Damon, you can be rude now. Go back to the commentary box. We'll speak to you in a minute. Damon Hill joining us for commentary of the Miami Grand Prix.
Thanks, Jenny Gow, down on the grid for us as it continues to get busier and busier. We're about half an hour away from lights out. Damon Hill, the 1996 Formula One champion, on the run now from the grid to the commentary box to join me for it. Yes, it's just after 3:30 here in Miami, just after 8:30 here in London. We'll be back with more build-up towards the Miami Grand Prix. But first, let's get your latest BBC News headlines with Lisa McCormack.
The voice of the UK. Formula One on 5 Live.
Welcome back to Miami for round 6 of the Formula One World Championship. We're about 20 minutes away from lights out for the 57 laps of racing around the grounds at the Hard Rock Stadium, home to the Miami Dolphins NFL team. All the cars are on the grid. It's getting busy out there, so let's check in with our pit reporter, Jenny Gow.
Tell you what, it certainly is busy. A whole host of celebrities made their way to the grid to enjoy this race, or what I hope will be a thrilling race. Gordon Ramsay and his wife right in front of us. You didn't want to speak to her, I get that, sorry. How are you, though?
Very well indeed, thank you. Just arrived literally a couple of hours ago, but all good and happy to be here.
Happy birthday? Is that right?
Oh, no. No, it's David's birthday last night.
Oh, okay.
No, not our birthday.
That's fine. How are you enjoying Miami so far? You've just dropped in, but...
We got 2 restaurants here, so it's like sort of a second home, and also this race is so unpredictable with the weather. Every 20 minutes it changes. 4 seasons in one afternoon.
I know, we're looking up the racetrack and you can see a very dark cloud.
Yes.
Who are you reckoning for the win?
Well, I looked up 2 minutes ago, I saw Jack Whitehall. He didn't look too good. So I think Oscar's got this today. Fingers crossed. It's going to be Oscar or Lando. And let's get Lewis on that podium again.
Let's do it. Thank you so much.
Go!
Right away.
Thanks, Jenny. Down on the grid with Gordon Ramsay. Apologies for any technical issues. It is busy on the grid, and so many satellites around this track attached to the Miami Dolphins NFL Stadium. We are getting a little bit of interference at times. We're up in the commentary box. My name's Harry Benjamin. We're positioned just on the inside of the final corner on the pit lane entry that is included in this Miami International Autodrome circuit. Alongside me in the box is the BBC's F1 correspondent Andrew Benson, and he's made good time from the grid. It's the 1996 Formula One World Champion Damon Hill. How was the grid, Damon? Made it back in time?
I did. I managed to pop in and get an iced latte as well. Looking at it enviously, I can see. But it's hot out there. With a bit of sunshine, the cool breeze coming from the direction of the grey clouds in front of them as their cars are on the grid. But typically busy and chaotic, full of celebrities. Gordon Ramsay, obviously, he's very welcome anytime, especially as I went to enjoy some of his food last night. So yeah, it's brilliant, isn't it? And we're just going to look at John Bon Jovi. Look at this, you know. It's well, you can't see on the radio. Well, I'm looking at the images, and there's John Bon Jovi giving Michael Douglas a hug, as they do.
Well, doesn't that just encapsulate Miami and America?
And America, it is. They love their stars, and of course they've got quite a few of them.
They certainly do, don't they? Were you having dinner with Gordon Ramsay? You joined us for dinner as well. Were you double bubbling last night?
I might have done. Well, they only gave me a kind of sampling plate, so I was still a bit peckish. And I hadn't eaten all day, so thanks very much for dinner.
You are very welcome, David. It's great to have you a part of the coverage. If you're just joining us, it is Max Verstappen on pole for this one, alongside Lando Norris. Just over half a tenth of a second separated the two of them in qualifying yesterday. The margins just so tight in this current Formula One.
Insane. I mean, literally 6 thousandths of a second. How we were talking about how you find gains when you're trying to find that little. Every tiny thing will make a difference. It's astonishing how close it is. We are at the tail end of these regulations, so it just shows if you put a load of geniuses and engineers together in Formula One, you get 20 teams, 10 teams, 20 cars competing for that prize. By the time they've got to near the end of the regulations, after about 4 or 5 years, they've pretty much discovered everything there is to know, so it's very difficult to find extra gains.
Yeah, it certainly is. We'll have a brand new set of regulations for next year in 2026, so it's difficult for the teams to keep one eye on making sure they stay in the fight for this season while making sure they get the jump on 2026. We have spoken a bit, obviously, about that run down to turn 1 that we could see between Verstappen and Norris. Damon, I just want to talk about Kimi Antonelli, who's tucked in behind in third. He was on sprint pole, breaking all the records, youngest pole setter, if you just sort of set aside all of the various caveats that come with a sprint race statistician. He's been so impressive this weekend, I think.
He's been on fire. I mean, I can remember watching FP1. I remember thinking, he seems to be liking this place. It was the way he was driving was very aggressive but confident, like it was a go-kart track. And there was something about him looking good, looking sharp all weekend. And, of course, the pole in the sprint was a surprise. And I was sort of expecting him not to deliver again in the main qualifying for the main race, but he very, very nearly got it on the front row.
Well, he's shown up George Russell for the majority of this weekend, hasn't he? And I tell you what, I was a bit sceptical maybe coming in or after these first sort of 5 rounds we've seen. I don't know, Andrew, if you agree, but Kimi was billed as once in a generation. I feel like we hadn't really seen that raw speed until now.
That's right. So Mercedes and he himself, they were very determined to take a cautious start to the season. Every interview I heard with him, the one he did with me as well in February, he was saying the same thing basically. If you have an accident and it really knocks you back for the rest of the weekend, he was determined not to do that. So he's been feeling his way, trying to build trust with the car. And for some reason, he went straight out in practice this weekend, and that trust was there and that confidence. And as you say, the potential that everybody talked about Kimi Antonelli, people are talking about him as a generational talent, the kind of Verstappen Hamilton type. And you hear all these stories from his junior career about that, which suggests that he could be. But he hadn't shown any evidence of it in Formula One until this weekend. And this weekend he really has.
He certainly has, and he's enjoying the limelight. Feels like he's really going with the Formula One driver character. Let's head back down to the grid. Jenny Gow.
Yes, Zach Brown, boss of McLaren, is standing with me just in front of Lando Norris's car. How are you feeling ahead of this race?
Good, ready to race. I think we got 2 cars and 2 drivers that can win this thing. We need to let the race come to us. It's a short run to turn 1.
How much are you worried that pole went away and Max Verstappen found himself there?
Well, I mean, Max has 3 poles this year, so the idea that his car is not a great racing car and put him in it, who's a great racing driver, I'm not surprised at all to see him on pole.
We've spoken a lot about your teammates. 9 points separates them now. Any rules of engagement today?
They know the rules. Go race, have some fun, put on a good show.
And finally, the weather. What are you expecting, Zach?
I think we have a decent chance to get in a small amount of rain for a small period of time. Whether it's enough to pull the drivers in, I think will depend when it hits, if it hits.
Okay, thanks so much, Zach.
Thank you.
Jenny Gow speaking to the CEO of McLaren, Zach Brown, on the grid, just a couple of minutes away, less than that, from the national anthem as the 20 drivers take their positions on it. Kimi Antonelli going from third. Oscar Piastri, who is your championship leader, will go from 4th place on the grid. Piastri, Damon, with a bit of work to do this afternoon to get onto the podium?
Yes, but was it Lando won it from 4th, was it, last year? So, it is so unpredictable. I mean, it's so tight. One small mistake, a bit of argy-bargy at turn 1, and anything can happen from where you are. And the second row is not the end of the world. The third row gets harder. 4th row, you're going to get a big deficit because of the dirty air. So what happens is it's like an accordion. Eventually they start to spread out simply because of the wind.
Here's the national anthem.
See by the dawn.
The sound of the flyover here in Miami as the United States national anthem blares out around this Miami International Autodrome. The racetrack just over 5.4 kilometres in length, 3.3 miles, made up of 19 turns, 12 to the left and 7 to the right, starting on the start grid, which is where Jenny is.
I certainly am. Christian Horner, team principal of Red Bull, right next to me. Max Verstappen just diving under the barrier as well in pole position. Not bad for a new dad.
Yeah, I mean, a great job yesterday. I'm really super, qualifying. But now it's all about the race. And at the moment we're between rain showers, but I think it's going to stay dry for a little bit yet.
Do you ever sometimes feel like you're a weather forecaster rather than a team principal?
Well, being British, we're always talking about the weather, so it's nothing new here. So, look, I mean, you can see the dark clouds all around us, but, let's see.
Just talk to me about that lap yesterday. We were talking about whether it was one of his best pole laps. What did you think?
Well, look, he keeps putting them together. I mean, that's his third pole in 6 races, so, phenomenal performance by Max yesterday. And, look, I mean, his Q3 that's when the pressure comes, and he put it all together. So, fabulous performance, and so close. All the top 4 cars, incredibly close.
I know the Team McLaren's obviously behind him. Has he got the pace in a race to actually fend them off?
Look, it's going to be very tough here because the DRS is so long. But look, with Max, you can't rule anything out. So, we're starting in the best place, and we'll see what we can do.
Good luck.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Jenny Gow with the team principal and CEO of Red Bull Racing. That's Christian Horner on the grid. His drivers, Max Verstappen bookending actually the top 10 with Verstappen in pole position, Yuki Tsunoda at 10th. And, does that limit Verstappen and the strategy options available to him for this race, Damien? Because you look at the 2 McLarens, 2nd and 4th, there's 2 of them in the hunt, where Tsunoda, well, he is all the way back in 10th. At least Verstappen on his own.
At least he's in the top 10.
Well, but is
we
that.
They are making progress with their number 2 driver. He's done a good job to get there. You're right, the best option is if you've got 2 cars virtually together on the grid, you can play. And of course, we've heard Williams talking about the option they have there with Alex Albon and Carlos Sainz being so close together on the grid that they can actually choose what sort of strategies they do to ensure someone might have to play backstop, someone might have to play supporting role for the other, but at least it gives you that option. Well, so imagine, coming round with the McLarens, at one point or other they're going to pit. Which one will it be? And that is something that is a problem for Red Bull, because they watch one, but they might not watch the other. They can't cover both.
No, and we'll see how good Tsunoda's start is, and if you can pick off a few positions. Interestingly, you bring up the Williams duo. Good qualifying for them. Carlos Sainz 6th, Alex Albon in 7th. Of course, we saw last time out in Saudi Arabia the teamwork being displayed there. A bit of a Carlos Sainz special with the DRS train help. That could really be quite beneficial, because we've got 3 DRS zones, and we've got that long back straight as well, which is a really big potential overtaking spot.
Oh yeah, absolutely it is, and with a big stop at the end of it. So we will see overtaking there for sure. If we don't see it on the straight under DRS, we'll see it as we go into that corner. So it's an big opportunity for drivers to pass. I think Carlos Sainz was interesting what he said about being asked to cooperate in Saudi. He didn't feel he wasn't too comfortable about being asked to do it. He'd prefer if he'd suggested it himself. But he did the right thing. And they're a coming team, Williams. They're looking stronger every week that goes by.
Yeah, Sainz really looking comfortable now in that. Williams matches his best qualifying of the season, which was last time out in Saudi with 6th place, has now out-qualified his teammate Albon in the last 3 Grand Prix. But credit 6th place today in Miami with a 20-minute power nap pre-qualifying. Would that ever work for you? Did you have a quick power nap before quali?
Absolutely.
Just to recharge for that final bit of energy?
Yeah, the trick is not to sleep too long. You don't want to be groggy. It doesn't help.
20 minutes is the perfect time, according to Carlos Sainz. I tell you what, though, Damon, the 2 Williams drivers ahead of the 2 Ferraris, and for both Charles Leclerc and Lewis Hamilton collectively, it's their worst qualifying of the year. Charles Leclerc 8th, Lewis Hamilton down at 12th.
Yeah, and we were looking at the problems that Lewis seemed to be having with the brakes, and I suggested that perhaps he's having trouble with that coming from Mercedes, where they use a different braking manufacturer. So I spoke to Fred Vasseur in the paddock and got a chance to ask him that question. And he said it may be that Charles, having been with them so long using the same equipment, has not really identified this as a problem, and that Lewis arriving has given them a bit of a clue as to something that they can improve on, which is an interesting observation. But generally, he said, we've got more work to do than just the brakes.
Yeah, well, for Lewis Hamilton, first time he's not made it through to Q3 as a Ferrari driver. Let's head back down to the grid. Jenny.
Yes, I found myself at the 3rd spot on the grid. Kimi Antonelli is just putting his helmet on. A special suit this weekend. A lot of people have either special livery, special helmets or special suits. He's looking rather dapper and snazzy. His race engineer just next to him, of course, Pete Boddington, a voice that we know very well from his days with Lewis Hamilton. But Kimi Antonelli, he got pole for the sprint race, couldn't keep it. What can he do from third place on this grid? He's confident he can do something special. This is a special race here in Miami. Let's see.
Indeed, let's see. For Kimi Antonelli goes from third. We'll run you through the whole grid at the top of the hour. I think a little shout out as well while we're just having a look at those in the top 10, Damon. Esteban Ocon in the Haas, sneaking inside that top 9.
Yeah, he was very happy about that as well. So every driver needs a kind of fillip. They need an event, they need a race that they can show. Well, that's what I've been trying to do all year long, and he's had a bit of bad luck along the way, but finally he managed to get the result he thinks is representative of what he's capable of doing. And of course, they are hoping to do better than that in the long term, but that's a good result for them.
Well, the grandstand's absolutely packed around this Miami International Autodrome. The grid still busy as last-minute preparations for the drivers are getting their helmets on and heading towards their car. Lewis Hamilton looking determined as he strolls towards his Ferrari. Going from 12th place, will have work to do for the 7-time champion who, hasn't had the best of runs around this Miami circuit, has never finished in the top 4 here. And in this modern era of Formula 1, the ground effect era, as a result of that, and this only being the 4th time we've come to Miami, it's only one of 3 tracks he's never won on, the other one being Zandvoort and Las Vegas. But it really is a unique experience here around the grounds of the Hard Rock Stadium, home to the Miami Dolphins NFL team. The paddock is situated on the actual NFL pitch, with the back of the team garages running under a tunnel that's created over the shadow of the grandstands that loom over parts of this circuit, which is a temporary street circuit in a way. It's wide though, lots of runoff areas, but it is made up of public roads, disused service roads. We've had a few support categories this weekend which have gripped things up nicely, but of course the rain this morning would have washed that away coming into this Grand Prix, so that's going to make grip a little bit of an issue. Let's check in with Jenny Gow now though.
Yes, I've managed to find James Vowles, team principal of Williams. James, 2 cars in the top 10. You must be rather happy with that.
Yeah, I'm ecstatic. I think even more so that we went through a disappointment yesterday with a quick car where we didn't score any points for various reasons. But for the team to bounce back and put the cars conclusively as the 4th fastest team, that means a lot to me.
It's always mind-boggling that 5 minutes before the race gets underway, we're allowed to talk to you. What are your thoughts right now?
Mainly that I need to get off the grid so I can get my head sorted, but my thoughts really are it's going to be one of those days where the weather will come in and out, where small details will all add up, but I'm looking forward to it.
So are we. Good luck.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thanks, Jenny. Speaking to the team principal of Williams, James Vowles. I mean, Jenny mentioned it there, Damon. It is always so interesting that this is probably one of the only sports where you can, as an athlete, be surrounded by media and so many people right before you're about to take to the start.
Can you say bonkers on the BBC?
Yes,
I mean, it is absolutely mad. I mean, it's packed with people, and then right up to this minute now, the drivers have got all that going on around them. They're trying to talk to their engineers, but as we talk now, they are making their way off the grid. All the celebrities have gone, and the ancillary bits of equipment, the generators and so forth, have left the track, and they will have the tyre warmers on them. Just the remaining people on the grid will be the mechanics ready to move those tyre warmers off the cars, and then everyone will be leaving the grid except for the drivers. They have to wait for the lights to go out, as we know.
And they certainly do. In terms of tyre strategy, Damon, we're thinking it's going to be, if all runs smoothly, a one-stop.
Yeah, this is very interesting because it was a one-stop. They've made the tyres softer in the hope that it would push it towards a 2-stop. But nobody really knows. Having had a wet race yesterday, the sprint race, they didn't. I don't think they've got a clear idea as to whether they can do a one-stop or not. I'm sure they're aiming for that. The question is, last year we saw Lewis Hamilton and Fernando Alonso do a one-stop, but they did it the other way around. They started on a hard tyre. They were starting in the middle of the grid. And I asked Andrea Stella if that was a possibility. And he said that it was actually a conceivable strategy, is to start with a hard and then go to a medium.
Well, let's see how that pans out. We are just about 5 minutes away then from lights out for the Miami Grand Prix. So before we run you through the full grid, all 20 drivers taking the start of this one, let's get your latest BBC News headlines with Lisa McCormack.
The voice of the UK.
Formula One on 5 Live.
The clouds still looming over this Miami International Autodrome as we're gearing up for round 6 of the Formula One World Championship. Ahead of us, 57 laps that make up the Miami Grand Prix, which runs around the grounds of the Hard Rock Stadium, home to the Miami Dolphins NFL team. We're about 30 minutes to an hour, maybe more, depending on the traffic, from South Beach in Miami and the Miami Gardens region at this just over 5.4 kilometre racetrack, 3.3 miles, 19 turns, which go 12 to the left and 7 to the right, where you're reaching speeds of over 330 kilometres an hour. Alongside myself in the commentary box, Harry Benjamin is the 1996 Formula One World Champion, Damon Hill. Damon, this is setting us up quite nicely, isn't it?
Yeah, well, I mean, it is absolutely fantastic. We're very, very close to the start. I will take issue with the half an hour to an hour trip from South Beach.
It was a good run today.
Well, yeah, I had all the time in the world to get here, but I would say under normal circumstances it's taken a bit longer. But as we watch now, the cars are ready to take off on the parade lap.
They certainly are, as the cameras get raised from the grandstands, which are absolutely packed out around this Miami circuit. It is coming up to 4 o'clock local time, 9 o'clock in London. It's time for the Miami Grand Prix. It's a third pole position of the season for Max Verstappen, the reigning champion, with the best view in the house. Alongside him, Lando Norris's McLaren from second. Kimi Antonelli in the Mercedes goes from third, ahead of our current championship leader, Oscar Piastri, in the second McLaren from fourth. George Russell rounds out the top 5, ahead of the 2 Williams drivers, Carlos Sainz and Alex Albon in 6th and 7th. Charles Leclerc's Ferrari is 8th, with Esteban Ocon in the Haas going from 9th, and Yuki Tsunoda's Red Bull rounding out the top 10. Isaac Hadjar from 11 in the Racing Bulls, ahead of Lewis Hamilton's Ferrari. Gabriel Bortoletto in the Sauber from 13th, with Jack Doohan, the Australian's Alpine, runs off from 14th spot, ahead of Liam Lawson's Racing Bull. Nico Hulkenberg in the Sauber from 16th, ahead of Fernando Alonso's Aston Martin. Then comes Lance Stroll in the Aston Martin, ahead of Oliver Behrman. 19 cars on the grid, with Pierre Gasly's Alpine going from the pit lane. Yeah, a bit of housekeeping there for Pierre Gasly's Alpine. They've made a setup change to the suspension. That was done under part for May, so they've broken the rules on that one, which means they can do it, but they'll have to start from the pit lane. Making his way, weaving left and right already at the chicane of turns 14 and 15 is Max Verstappen, being followed very closely by Lando Norris. Damien, what are the drivers doing in these final moments as they make their way to the grid?
Well, they're trying to keep themselves calm, because it's very easy to get your brain overexcited. You have a very, very strict and tricky procedure to perform, getting these cars parked on the right place on the grid. Also, we're watching the cars weaving a lot down the straight. They're trying to put heat into the tyres. They can do it using the brakes as well. So they're doing all that prep work for the tyres. But then when they get to the grid, they've got to make sure they go to neutral, and then they engage the gear in the right way, and they're ready for the start. You don't want to put it in gear too early, because then you sit there trembling with your fingers all over the clutches, and you laugh. But I mean, honestly, there's so much adrenaline. It is very difficult. So we're watching the cars going past the window, and most of the drivers have elected to start on the medium tyre. I can't see anything indication that anyone's going for the hard. Oh, actually, as I say that is a Mercedes went past the window with a hard, so that might be George Russell.
I think George Russell is starting on that hard tyre, along with Lewis Hamilton, Liam Lawson, Fernando Alonso, Ollie Behrman and Pierre Gasly from the pit lane, expecting a one-stop strategy here. Going to try and make it, if you're starting on the median, to around about lap 19 to 25, and if you're starting on that harder tyre, you want to try and make it to lap 32 to 38. So those further back then, Damien, like Lewis Hamilton, electing to go on that hard tyre to go longer into this race.
Yeah, and it worked for him last year as they line up now, and we will be seeing pretty soon what's going to happen at turn 1 as the cars are forming up on the grid. There's the last one, there's Haas at the back of it, that's Ollie Behrman, I think, is also on a hard tyre.
Let's check in with Jenny Gow as Behrman does indeed come round the final corner.
Yes, those clouds just still hang heavily above the south end of this track. and every team has someone watching the weather intently. What's going to happen? We'll find out soon.
We certainly will. Behrman pulls up at the back. On pole position then it's Max Verstappen. Alongside him is Lando Norris. It's eyes to the lights and foot to the floor as we go racing in Miami. The first of 57 laps. Straight to the inside to defend is Max Verstappen, but he locks up. That sends him deep, and Lando Norris tries to make it round the outside, having to cut the chicane. Piastri's allowed through, and Kimi Antonelli now in the Mercedes is all over the back of Max Verstappen, who is looking so aggressive out there, climbing the curbs. Desperation in trying to keep hold of that lead, and he has done so as the rest of the pack weave their way through Sector 1, left and right sweepers, which make up the majority of it, and it's Max Verstappen who holds the lead ahead of Kimi Antonelli, and Oscar Piastri's up to third, with Lando Norris losing positions.
Yeah, I have to say, I think that was a little bit of an over-bold defence or re-defence by Lando as we were watching Kimi Antonelli going down, defending himself from Oscar Piastri, going down to the last but one corner. A fantastic start for Kimi Antonelli as he had a little look there at Max Verstappen, and I think Max Verstappen's probably thinking, this guy's got nothing to lose, I better watch out for him. But Lando Norris, what a disaster. He got round the outside, he tried to recover his position on Max, and he got run wide, and that was that. Now he's put him further back. I saw him go over the curb. They had a yellow flag track hazard light up on our screen, so there's a yellow flag. Hopefully he hasn't got a car damage or anything like that, as we watch again as Kimi Antonelli defends by going down the straight, down the middle of the track, so that Max Verstappen, no one behind him, Oscar Piastri, cannot take a dive.
I believe yellow flag was out for Jack Doohan's Alpine with a bit of a puncture, might have left some debris. That yellow flag has now gone in as we start lap 2 of 57 at this Miami International Autodrome, and Oscar Piastri looking a little crossed up as he goes into turn 1, but he's now all over the back of Kimi Antonelli in the Mercedes, who's losing ground to Max Verstappen, who's starting to pull away, Damon.
Yeah, well, I think what happened there was Kimi was running down the middle of the track, and I think there was lots of dirt on his tyres, so I think I saw a bit of white smoke, so I think probably what happened, we didn't see it actually happen, but I think what happened is he got dirt on his tyres, he tried to brake and probably locked up, and that's why he's lost ground on Max, and Oscar now is in a position to attack. We haven't got DRS just yet.
That's the voice of the 1996 Formula 1 World Champion Damon Hill, alongside myself, Harry Benjamin. You're listening to live coverage of the Miami Grand Prix, round 6 of the Formula 1 World Championship.
Yeah, he's forced me off, man. What am I going to do, just drive it to the wall or something? Like, I was completely alongside.
That is Lando Norris, who was not happy with how that opening lap went against Max Verstappen. Those two have more than history on track together. We'll see if anything comes from that. Virtual safety car is out as Jack Doohan, after a really tough first lap, has pulled off the track. This is the sound of the Australian in the Alpine off his starting grid position. He started down in 14th, out-qualified his teammate Pierre Gasly, gets right up onto the curb coming through turn 1, and well, I think 5 cars don't go into one there, and in the end it's the Alpine who makes contact with the Racing Bull of Liam Lawson, who gets spun round as well. Lawson's all the way down to 19th too, and Doohan looks like he's retired and out of this one. Virtual safety car out. It's Verstappen who leads Antonelli. Piastri is third ahead of George Russell. Alex Albon, good start and up into the top 5. Lando Norris losing out while fighting against Max Verstappen into turn 1. He's down to 6th ahead of Sainz. Charles Leclerc is 8th. Tsunoda is up 1 position into 9th ahead of Esteban Ocon. Then it's Hadjar, Hamilton, Bortoletto, Hülkenberg and Stroll, the top 15, with Behrman, Alonso, Gasly and Lawson, the 19 drivers left in this one, with Jack Doohan retiring, as we're, Damon, just getting a look at that first lap replay. And it wasn't really turn 1, it was turn 3, coming into turn 2 and 3, where Norris just gets squeezed out.
Well, he got sort of drawn in. You can see what happened is that Max got locked up going into turn 1, and I think that Lando just decided there's a better option, and you can see, well, we can see he was tucked in and went round, tried to go around the outside of Max, who just basically did not give him enough room. But then he, you have to say that Lando put himself in a vulnerable position, but he did so because Max locked up.
This is the sound of Lando Norris's race start. Verstappen quite aggressive, immediately coming over from the left-hand side all the way to the right to defend. And if there wasn't contact, it was mightily close. And if Norris had not taken to the runoff area, that would have been big contact between the two.
Harry, we just watched that on board, and I think when you look at it from the onboard of Lando Norris's car, you have to say that Max definitely jinked towards Lando, and I think the stewards will be having a look at that.
Well, we'll keep a track of where it comes from race control. That's the sound of Liam Lawson.
Yeah, I got completely hit, mate. I had no idea what the Alpine was doing.
Liam Lawson, bit of an innocent victim there. That's further back. They're right towards the back of the pack in that midfield. He was caught up in the incident with Jack Doohan, which has seen the Australian rookie out of this session. Might get a better view of it on board with Oliver Behrman from the back of the grid. He takes the wider line coming through and then takes the apex. And I feel that's a bit of a racing incident there between Doohan and Liam Lawson. Just not enough room going into turn one.
Yes, a bit of pushing and shoving, and these cars, it's very difficult. You can't always see what's going on around you. When you going into a corner in the first lap of a race, you kind of don't want to do anything suddenly. As we get a green flag, the safety car is pulled in and they're up and running again.
Yeah, we're back racing after a virtual safety car, which neutralises the field. It doesn't bunch them all up, so the gaps are trying to maintain the same as they were before. It's Verstappen out in front on lap 4 of 57. He leads by 1.3 seconds to Kimi Antonelli's Mercedes. Then comes your current championship leader, Oscar Piastri, up into third. George Russell covers the top 4. Then it's Albon, Norris, Sainz, Leclerc, Tsunoda, Ocon the top 10. They're your point scorers. Followed by Lewis Hamilton, up one place now, up into 11th in his Ferrari, ahead of Hadjar. The two Saubers, Bortoletto and Hulkenberg, with Lance Stroll's Aston Martin, make up the top 15. Behrman is 16th ahead of Alonso. Then comes Gasly and Lawson. 19 cars left in this one, with Jack Doohan retiring after that damage. And Oscar Piastri makes it easy as he takes second place away from Kimi Antonelli with the aid of DRS coming into the left-hander of turn 11. Piastri's up to second as Lando Norris now looks to try and get onto the back of the other Mercedes of George Russell to pick off fourth place.
So far, no news on whether or not the first corner incident with Max and Lando is going to be investigated. We've just conceded that Esteban Ocon's been told by his engineers rain in 15 minutes, so that's a message that's going to be going through to all the drivers. But a great move there by Oscar Piastri, and also, as we spoke, Lando Norris made a place on I think it was
Alex
Albon. Yes, that's correct. So he's making progress. He's recovering some of that lost ground that he made at turn 1, and he'll be pretty fired up, I have to say, but he's going to have to work really hard to get through this traffic and back up to, well, let's be honest, I mean, he's got to get up past two Mercedes, very determined Mercedes cars, Russell and also Kimi Antonelli as well.
Yeah, right now Lando Norris up now inside that top 5. This is the sound of Lewis Hamilton going wheel to wheel with Isaac Hadjar. These two get on quite well off the track, but not giving an inch is the French rookie in the all-pink Racing Bulls, taking that inside line coming into turn 1, but the rookie runs deep and succumbs to the 7-time champion in the Ferrari.
We're watching the master. He's seen it all before, and Isaac Hadjar just dived down into turn 1 to defend a little bit too deep, and of course it was easy pickings for Lewis Hamilton, who is on the hard tyre, who slipped back and got that place. So job done for Lewis. He's making progress through the field.
Here we go then, the two Williams fighting on track, and Carlos Sainz with the aid of DRS has just got in front of his teammate Alex Albon, who on the previous lap had lost out to Lando Norris. So Carlos Sainz, who had qualified ahead of his Thai teammate, is now back in front of him on lap 5 with the aid of DRS in that run down from turn 10 to 11 has made it stick. It's Verstappen with a 1.3 second lead to Oscar Piastri now, who has got the fastest lap and is trying to hunt down the Dutchman to continue the Australians' championship lead right now. He's looking to extend it come the end of these 57 laps. Antonelli lying in third, but he's got pressure behind from Russell, who's just half a second. Then it's Norris and Sainz.
Possible rain in 20 laps. It will be heavy if it hits.
Oh, that could be tasty. Heavy rain possible in 20 laps is what Fernando Alonso is told on the radio. Alonso having a pretty miserable start to this race. He's down in 17th. His teammate actually with a good start in this Grand Prix. He's up into 15th spot. But it's not been the weekend that Fernando Alonso would have wanted. Lap 6 of 57. Verstappen, Piastri, Antonelli, Russell and Norris the top 5. Let's check in with Jenny Gatt.
Thank you. Yes, just talking to a few of the team strategists ahead of this race, and they said that watching the F1 Academy race, which happened earlier on today, the weather just popped up out of nowhere. So it's really hard to predict exactly what's going to happen. And rain can come, it can come really close, but not actually fall on the track. So it's a watching brief. Let's see which team gets it right.
The two Mercedes fighting out on the circuit as we've got George Russell fighting with Kimi Antonelli. Russell trying to put on the pressure to Kimi Antonelli's third place. Antonelli's fallen back now from the top two in this Grand Prix and is starting to fall into the clutches of his teammate and Lando Norris here. Is this maybe a bit of lack of racing experience from Kimi Antonelli showing, Damon?
Yeah, it's possible. I mean, he's been defending right from the word go. When Oscar was behind him, he was doing pretty serious defending. He didn't perhaps need to do that quite to such a degree.
Does Verstappen have damage or a penalty?
Not yet, but they're looking at it, Oscar. They're looking at the turn 2 incident.
That's Oscar Piastri on the radio, who is being told that they're being looked at, that Max Verstappen incident being looked at. Meanwhile, his teammate Lando Norris is just trying to line up George Russell coming through turns 3, the right-hander in sector 1, then arcs you round through 4 and 5, gets alongside him, and what a move by Lando Norris. Pincer sharp from the British racer to pick off the Mercedes of Russell. Norris is up to 4th, and as we speak about Antonelli, on that last lap around, managing to find himself a bit more pace and get a gap to his teammate, who then falls foul of Lando Norris.
So Verstappen's been cleared by the stewards. No further investigation on that move. What do you think about that, Damon?
Well, I have to say, on the onboard, we're watching another replay, I think. Oh, no, we're not. We're watching the overtake from Lando Norris. I thought I was going back to turn 1, but actually, here we are, Lando Norris. We're watching a replay of Lando Norris getting underneath the rear wing of Kimi Antonelli and sliding past him.
That was a good move, wasn't it?
It was a great move because he actually, I think he was unsighted, and I don't think Kimi expected him to do that.
Yeah, Norris actually getting ahead of Russell there. That was coming as the left-hander of turn 4 as Kimi Antonelli takes off visor rip-off because he is trying to keep Lando Norris at bay. Meanwhile, George Russell is now even under more pressure from the DRS of the Williams of Carlos Sainz. The two Williams having a brilliant race here as Sainz applying the pressure, sweeping left, sweeping right. That's how we end the lap around this Miami International Autodrome, onto the start-finish straight from the pole position mark down to the right-hander of turn 1. It's 176 metres, stamp on the brakes into the right-hander. Then you get a series of left-right sweepers that Carlos Sainz currently makes his way through. First, the long sweeping right-hander, then a short little bit of a reprieve at a straight, then chucks you through the left-hander where we just saw Lando Norris make a lovely move on George Russell. Then that peels you round the almost never-ending horseshoe-shaped left-hander, I should say, coming out through turn 7, full throttle, slight kink through turn 9, brings you round to the straight at turn 10. This will be an overtaking opportunity for Carlos Sainz if he's within the DRS range. He just about is. He's fallen back a little bit through that sector 1. The DRS allows him to close up, but not close enough coming into the left-hander of turn 11. Just to go back, Damon, to Max Verstappen being cleared of that incident at the start. Racing incident, lap 1, is that how they're viewing it?
Well, I mean, I have to say I was quite surprised at how quickly I saw Max Verstappen when I was looking at his steering input. It looked to me like he put a deliberate jerk to the right on the steering to try and make sure that Lando didn't go around the outside. So I would like another look at that later on, perhaps, if we get a chance. I'm not sure I totally agree with their decision.
Well, let's see how that one pans out. For now, Max Verstappen away, but he's under pressure now. 0.7 of a second between himself and Oscar Piastri, who continues to hunt down the Dutchman. Antonelli is 3rd as we're now on lap 9 of 57. Antonelli, though, about 3.9 seconds back from the leading duo. And looking in his mirrors as he comes into the right-hander of turn 1. Lando Norris taking an awful lot of curb coming into the right-hander. Just slightly unsettles the car. Has to make a correction on the steering wheel, losing him a fraction of time as he chases Antonelli.
Expected lap 14. Heavy. Just going to skirt the circuit at first, hitting turns 7 and 17, then should cover the whole circuit eventually.
Okay, turn 7 and 17 around about lap 14. That's where we'll see maybe the first bits of rain before it comes across the rest of the circuit. It's lap 9 right now, so in 5 laps time, as the sky looks greyer, let's see how that unfolds. Oscar Piastri, who's currently in 2nd, hoping to get the move done before the rain comes. His teammate Lando Norris slides down the inside of the left-hander at turn 11 on Kimi Antonelli as the McLaren driver gets himself up into the podium positions.
Yeah, it's a fantastic recovery in the first few laps. He's actually got through the obstacles in front of him, Lando Norris, when he needed to. He made short work of both Mercedes, and actually this is very important for him. You cannot afford to let I was watching a car spin. It's Fernando Alonso. We don't know why. Is it rain, perhaps? He doesn't normally spin on his own. He's on hard tyres. And we're looking at turn 14. It's not the corners that we were told.
He was coming through turn 12, yeah.
Turn 12. We will get a replay of that at some point. But as we're watching, Oscar Piastri closing up on Max Verstappen. Here we are on lap 10, and he's right underneath Max's gearbox. There's a car length between them as they go through turn 1 and 2.
Absolutely, into those sweeping sections where Alonso get a look at Alonso and what happened there to him. Onto the brakes, coming into the left-hander of 11, takes a wider line. He's chasing the Haas of Ollie Behrman and then just loses it all on his own. The rear goes round on him and round goes Fernando Alonso.
Yeah, that was a bit of a strange one. Maybe he picked up, he put a wheel on the right-hand side curb going into the corner, and it could be, because I have seen some puddles still left around from the rain this morning, so maybe he picked up a bit of water on his rear tyres as he turned in. It's very unlike Fernando Alonso. We're back with the action now, and Oscar is getting incredibly close as Max Verstappen defends, goes to the inside line to stop a move by Oscar Piastri. The crowd, you can hear them cheering. There's less than the car length between them as they go through the last corners, 14 and 15. That's very incredibly slow, clumsy part of the circuit. It looks like they're going no miles an hour as they come out of that, and Max Verstappen pulls a bit of an advantage.
Max Verstappen, though, feeling the pressure from a rapid McLaren who is half a second behind him. They're making their way down that long back straight, 1.2 kilometres long. With the aid of DRS, Verstappen feels the need to defend, takes the inside, coming into the braking zone of the left-hander. That allows Oscar Piastri to get on the throttle, though, a little bit sooner than Verstappen ahead of him, sweeping left and right to see off a lap. Another dose of DRS comes for Oscar Piastri. Verstappen to the inside, Piastri to the outside, coming into the right-hander of turn 1. The Dutchman defends once more. The reigning champion fighting with the current leader of the Formula 1 Championship for the lead of this Miami Grand Prix, with rain imminent in a few laps. Piastri desperate to get the move done.
Yeah, and of course, Harry, the more they're fighting, the longer this goes on, that better it is for Lando Norris, who's close. He's almost a second closer to them now. He's only 3.3 seconds behind them, but he's catching them up because, of course, they're fighting. They're not going the optimum speed.
Verstappen's also just he's looking ragged out there. He's really racing that Red Bull to the absolute extremes because he knows, particularly in a straight line, Piastri and the McLaren are faster. Coming into the left-hander of turn 11, once again with DRS. Piastri tries it around the outside. Verstappen eases him to the edge of the circuit. They both stay on the track, and now as they come through that clumsy chicane of 14 and 15, it's line astern, Verstappen ahead of Piastri still.
This is a really fascinating tactical battle, fighting for the lead here. Verstappen's doing what he always does, always defend to the inside and then plan to run the driver on the outside off the track if he can. What Piastri has to do is get ahead going into the corner on the outside, and then Verstappen can't run him off, but he still might, and that's the risk you have to take as a driver. What do? Do you rely on Verstappen doing the right thing and not running you off, or do you just take the risk that he will, and then what, his radio?
Stay on the inside, Max, make it work for it.
There you go. It's a policy from Red Bull, basically.
It's a policy decision. I was going to say, didn't he actually go on record as saying no one's going to overtake me around the outside?
To me, it was an interview I did with him in Las Vegas last year. Yeah,
of course it was.
I got him to talk
I knew I heard it from somewhere.
Yeah, I got him to talk about how he races, and that was basically what he said. And I said, look, Max, how does anybody race you if you're going to always defend to the inside and then push it, and then they're not allowed to overtake you on the outside? He goes, well, maybe they can try and cut back or something. He didn't really have an answer, because basically if he's allowed to push people off, you can't race him if he's going to defend to the inside all the time. But let's see how Piastri handles it, because Piastri is one of the cleanest, most clinical, most incisive racers on the grid.
That's the voice of the BBC's F1 correspondent Andrew Benson, alongside myself, Harry Benjamin, as the 1996 Formula 1 World Champion Damon Hill. You're listening to live coverage of round 6 of the Formula 1 World Championship, live from Miami, around the grounds of the Hard Rock Stadium, home to the Miami Dolphins NFL team. It's lap 12 of 57. Rain imminent in the next couple of laps. We've got a fascinating battle for the lead developing. Max Verstappen, the reigning champion, the man who doesn't let himself get overtaken easily. In fact, it's almost a policy that Red Bull do not allow him to get overtaken, especially around the outside. Meanwhile, Oscar Piastri, the current championship leader in the McLaren, well, the ethos at McLaren seems to be, from team principal Andrea Stella, get to the checkered flag always. How hard will Piastri push Verstappen? Because, let's hear from Verstappen.
It's a route to drive. Understood.
Verstappen maybe start struggling with a bit of grip, or as the moisture starts to come into the air, how will that play effect? But Damon, Piastri's going to want to be pushing even harder now, because sooner rather than later, his teammate Lando Norris is going to be right in this battle too.
Lando's been flying. He put up the fastest lap a moment ago. He's only 2.5 seconds behind his teammate Oscar. You're right, soon he'll be into DRS, and Oscar will have that problem because that is his teammate. And of course, McLaren will be selling them. The goal is to get in front of Max. What we must do first, before we fight over a race victory between the two of you, is get past Max. We need to dispense with him. And I've noted that Oscar Piastri is doing something slightly different this time. He's not showing his hand to Max quite so obviously, and Max is probably sitting there thinking, now where's he going to go this time?
Down through the gears at the end of the DRS zone, which takes you from turn 10 to 11, where Constantine is up, doesn't make a move there. Next chance for him will be into the braking zone of turn 17. While they do that, let's check in with Jenny Gow. Weather reports, Jenny?
Yes, well, there are lots of white clouds. It's quite leaden above, but I can't see any sign of rain at the moment. I'll tell you what, it's a good workout if you're sat in the grandstand at the moment. Every minute they all stand up, watch the leaders go back, and all sit down. It's fascinating to watch.
This is one of the closest battles out on the track, and into the braking zone of turn 17. The left-hander, Verstappen, jinks out to the inside to defend that position. Coming out of the exit, on the throttle goes Oscar Piastri in the Papaya McLaren. This is closer than he's ever been. Round the final corner, side by side, down the start-finish straight. Piastri applying the pressure. Verstappen goes deep. Verstappen off the track. Piastri takes the lead of the Miami Grand Prix on lap 14 of 57. Our championship leader gets through on the reigning champion at last.
Game on, thinks Lando Norris. Now I've got to do the same number on Max Verstappen. Oscar Piastri had much more momentum going down the straight and could go deeper into the corner. Max braked very late, but of course it was all too much. But you know, he is that move that he did before when he pulled out of the DRS zone was a real late move. And you have to have your wits about you. Lando Norris has had his moments with Max, and Max has outsmarted him, so we're going to see another replay. Can Lando Norris dispatch Max Verstappen without incident?
Well, he played that beautifully, Harry. Here's some radio from Verstappen.
Brakes, obviously.
Yeah, I suspect, Max, you probably find you brake too late there. What happened was he defended to the inside at the last corner. That gave Piastri a chance to get a run on him, and he got right alongside him on the outside. Verstappen braked too late, ran wide into the corner, and Piastri cut back and got him on the exit.
Here we go again, though, with the second McLaren now. Piastri got through at just the right time, because now Norris is all over the back of Max Verstappen's Red Bull, again into turn 17. Verstappen defends the inside line. That sends him out a little bit wider on the exit, so close to the wall. Round the final corner, the Norris McLaren tucks in underneath, and it's almost going to be a carbon copy of his teammate's move down into turn 1, but Verstappen is the inside. Side by side, Norris almost 4 wheels off the track. I think it might well have been off the track. Verstappen got his elbows out once more. Lando Norris saw it coming, and he wasn't happy with that one either. A hand gesture from the cockpit of the British driver. Not too happy with that one at Verstappen.
He does put himself in very dangerous positions, Lando. You know, he goes around the outside, he's got the run on him down the straight, but of course Max brakes very, very late, as he always does, and it gives an opportunity for Lando to get through.
Well, that was, locking up initially with the brakes for Piastri to come through, so that's what gave Piastri the advantage, and then Verstappen then managing to still keep ahead of Lando Norris, but Norris is still fighting for it. Norris is the quicker driver out of these two right now. Again, into the braking zone of 11, sweeping round the reverse U-bend of 12, jinking left.
He was not ahead.
All good. Straight on it with all of the caveats for Max Verstappen. Okay, here we go. 90-degree left-hander sees you out of turn 16, up through 5th gear, into 6th. This is the sound of Lando Norris reaching 7th gear, speeds of over 330 kilometres an hour. Hits the DRS button, the letterbox in the rear wing flies open, gives you a kilometre-an-hour advantage ahead of your rival in front. Verstappen, though, doesn't defend too much. Norris not close enough on that occasion, but how good is the run out of the final corner for Lando Norris, as his teammate now is starting to skirt up the road. Piastri leads this race down towards turn 1. Verstappen again to the inside. Norris not close enough to try anything around the outside, and tucks back in as they were. Max Verstappen second, Lando Norris third.
So this is a very interesting comparison, isn't it? You had Oscar on Max, and now you've got Lando on Max, and I think Lando has compromised himself a little bit by trying that move around the outside. It was obvious what Max was going to do. He was going to run him off onto the curb, which is costing time now. He's had to fight back to get back into DRS again, and all the time this is going on, Max is playing games with Lando in his head.
Well, we are having an absolute treat of a battle up front. There is not too much, I have to say, going on behind the battle for first, second and third right now. Piastri actually has now taken the lead. He's 4 seconds adrift as Verstappen goes very deep coming into turn 11 through the right-hander of 12. That puts Norris once again all over the back of the champion into turns 14 and 15, rising up left, heading downhill to the right.
Yeah, everything is just everywhere. It's all over the shop.
Everything is just everywhere, just all over the shop is what Max Verstappen says on the radio. We go again, down that back straight over 1.2 kilometres, looking for that first braking board. The DRS slam shut under braking, but Norris doesn't risk a late dive to the inside. Norris much tighter to the apex, coming through the left-hander compared to Max Verstappen as the gap continues to increase between Verstappen and Piastri, who leads 5 seconds now. Running down to turn 1 again. Verstappen in the middle of the road, hugs that inside line, defending once more from Lando Norris.
I'm quite surprised at how little of an advantage Lando gets under DRS on Max. It seems that that it was better with Oscar. He managed to get more of a slingshot, but all the time that Lando is stuck behind Max, we've got Oscar's going up the road. This is a replay. We're watching now a replay of the time that Lando tried to go around the outside at turn 1, and of course it wasn't on. You've got to do a clean pass down the straight into the braking area and get your car in front of Max before you can start to go alongside him.
Here we go though, but Lando Norris is trying it once more on Max Verstappen to the inside, side by side, and they both run off the track at the left-hander of turn 11. Norris though emerges out in front, but you just know Verstappen will be on the radio straight away as Verstappen almost goes into the back of Norris as they break for the chicane at 14 and 15, a lock-up for the Dutchman. He just about survives down the back straight. Lando Norris eking out an advantage already. The British racer is through, but will that cost him having run off the track along with his rival Max Verstappen, who now gets the DRS, jinks to the inside at the end of the back straight, allows Verstappen through, does Lando Norris. He doesn't fight that too hard. Verstappen back through as they chase each other down. Once again, lap 18 of 57 on the start-finish straight. Verstappen hugs that inside. Norris forced to take the racing line. Now I wonder, was that Lando Norris giving back the position there?
We didn't see a replay yet of that move at turn 11, but I suspect that what we're going to see is Norris was a bit off the track and he felt that he needed to give the position back of his own volition.
We'll have to get another look at it. It did look, coming into the left-hander of 11, both of them running deep and then rejoining the track at the right-hander at turn 12. But that was Norris making an attempt there down that DRS. Let's see if he does the same thing again.
It all looked too easy, didn't it? The pass, I was surprised that Lando Norris did not defend, so it is possible what you say, Andrew, is that something's happened. He felt the need to give the place back, but we're seeing another attempt now under DRS, and Lando has got Max this time. That's a clean pass, and this time I think it's going to stick.
Much cleaner for Lando Norris as he sweeps on by. It's now a McLaren 1-2 in Miami. Piastri leads 8.8 seconds to Lando Norris, with Verstappen now third.
It was almost like Verstappen had just given that up. He didn't defend at all. He just left the space open for Norris, which is very, very unlike him, as we've seen for the last 6 laps or so with both McLaren drivers.
Well, has Max Verstappen just run out of grip?
Quite possibly, yeah, quite possibly. DRS is open. He's coming up behind Norris again, but I don't think he's going to get him now into the last corner.
Oh, that was quite enjoyable for a few laps.
It was 19 laps of enjoyable racing, wasn't it? As we watch now, we're going to see whether or not Lando has got any tyres left after having battled to get past Max Verstappen and also been in dirty air, whether he's got enough advantage to be able to close this 9-second gap. Well, he's already closed it a little bit. It's under 9 seconds by a tenth. We're watching a replay of the overtake on Max.
I think this is one where they both run off.
This is why, yeah, so we're watching a replay.
He went off the track, while driving me off the track, so I need that position back.
Okay, so you need to be a lawyer, don't you, to be a racing driver?
He is right in that position, Max Verstappen, I think. But I mean, what it's done is it's cost, unless something dramatic happens now, it's cost Lando Norris a chance to win because he's 9 seconds behind Piastri, and it's going to be very difficult to close that up on his teammate in the same car.
Also, I think we're entering the pit window on a one-stop if you're on that medium tyre, opening at around about lap 19 to 25, depending on how long you can keep those lasting. But of course, we were expecting rain at around about lap 14. We seem to have escaped that for the time being. I wonder if it's just skirted round us at the last minute. It's lap 19 of 57. Oscar Piastri leads this Miami Grand Prix by 9 seconds to Lando Norris. It's Max Verstappen in third, with Kimi Antonelli fourth and George Russell the top five. Russell reporting it is raining. Albon sixth, Sainz seventh, Charles Leclerc is eighth, Tsunoda, Ocon the top 10, Hamilton's 11th with Isaac Hadjar 12th, Bortoletto, Hulkenberg, Stroll the top 15, Ben, Gasly, Alonso and Lawson, the 19 drivers remaining in this race. One retirement in the form of the Alpine of Jack Doohan.
Yeah, as you say, a lot of the drivers starting to complain about their tyres. They're going away from them, the ones that start on the mediums. The top 10, Russell was the only one to start on the hard tyres, so that might be a bit different. But every up and down the pit lane, every engineer is looking at the clouds, looking at their weather app. When will this rain come? Not yet.
Well, if you're George Russell, you're feeling it already inside the cockpit. He's just said on that radio, it is raining. How heavy? We've got movement in the pits, though, but it's not for those wet tyres. It's Gabriel Bortoletto, Sauber coming in from the back of the pack. Bortoletto having his best qualifying of the season so far. Started this race 13th. Decent stop from the Sauber lot, 2.2 seconds. It was a year ago where they were struggling to keep things under 10 seconds for the Sauber team, but they feed him out with a set of hard tyres into 18th spot. So they have bit Bortoletto's tyres not lasting anymore. Right, the battle out at front now seems to have settled down. Piastri leads Norris and Max Verstappen. Kimi Antonelli holding on to fourth ahead of George Russell. Then it's Albon, Sainz, Leclerc, Tsunoda and Ocon, the top 10. There is a battle developing, though, between the Ferrari of Lewis Hamilton, who is not yet in the points. He's in that 11th position, trying to chase down the Frenchman of Esteban Ocon in the Haas, who had his best qualifying of the season as well for this Grand Prix. Started in 9th, he's lost out to Yuki Tsunoda, but here comes Lewis Hamilton. This is the sound of the Ferrari driver. 340 kilometres an hour reached before he stamps on the brakes into the left-hander of turn 17, feeds himself up through the gears, 4th gear, 5th gear, sweeps through the left-hander, then the right-hander as we start another lap. 21 of 57 here as we race around the grounds of the Hard Rock Stadium, home to the Miami Dolphins NFL team. Hamilton not making quite the inroads I think he would have wanted, Damon, but of course he started on the hard tyre, the others starting on the medium ahead of him, the majority of at least.
Yeah, exactly. So we'll see. He did this last year, and of course the advantage is that he can go longer, deeper into the race and then go to the medium, or at least if he changes to the medium will have less punishment because the car is lighter, the track is better, so it can be quite a good tactic because you're on a better, more competitive tyre for the second half of the race. We're not even through the halfway point, actually. We've only done 21 laps, but even so, it's possibly a good strategy for Lewis. I'll be interested to see where it ends up at the final flag.
This is the sound of Esteban Ocon in 10th, continuing to keep Lewis Hamilton back. Esteban Ocon desperate to get a crucial point for the Haas team as they continue to fight in the Constructors' Championship for best of the rest. It really concertinas up through that chicane of 14 and 15 where you're going oh so close, oh so slowly. Lewis Hamilton almost nudging Esteban Ocon out of the corner. Hamilton will get the aid of the DRS. He's pretty close to the back of the Haas. Ocon moves to the inside to defend. Onto the dirty stuff. Sparks flying from the underside of that Haas. Hamilton sent to the outside. That allows him the cutback. Sweeps underneath him right out of the final corner for Lewis Hamilton now. Starting lap 22 of 57, another dose of DRS comes, and the Haas driver, Esteban Ocon, staying ahead of the Ferrari, much like the incumbent of the Haas car last year, Kevin Magnussen, really proved rather tricky to overtake. I think it was Charles Leclerc's Ferrari who spent quite a few laps behind that Haas, and well, it's same again 1 year later. The Haas holding on well for that final point.
Yeah, he's quite good. He's quite used to defending Esteban Ocon as well, as was Kevin Magnussen. I think Kevin probably was the greatest defender of all time in Formula One. But I think Esteban Ocon has a reputation as being a bit of a hard racer too. So Lewis had better work this one out properly and make it a clean pass, because Esteban will not make it easy.
This is the sound once more of Lewis Hamilton down into that left-hander. This time it's turn 11, side by side. Ocon hangs him out to dry, but Hamilton doesn't lift. Nothing between the two. You could fit a piece of paper between the front right of Esteban Ocon's Haas and the front left of Lewis Hamilton's Ferrari. Somehow there's no contact. Ocon holds the position. Hamilton's still on 11th. While they're fighting, they're bringing Isaac Hadjar and the Racing Bulls into this one. We're going down the back straight once again. It's going to be advantage Lewis Hamilton with the DRS. Ocon sees him coming straight away, moves to the inside, but the speed differential with the gain of the DRS allows Lewis Hamilton finally, as they come into the braking zone, to take that 10th position away from Ocon.
But that was a fantastic bit of racing, a very finely judged bit of defending there by Esteban Ocon, as we watch the screen where Lewis had to decide whether he kept his foot in it as the wall was getting closer, and Esteban Ocon on the outside was getting closer, and he squeezed between the two of them. But I think after this race they will be shaking hands and saying that was fair and tough.
Isaac Hadjar into the pits in the Racing Bulls. He was just behind that battle, but has opted to come in, switching to the hard tyre. So that rain that George Russell might have been feeling, well, it hasn't quite come to fruition just yet in terms to affect the on-track conditions. I wonder if the top drivers in this field are just holding on to see if that rain does indeed come before they then succumb to the tyre degradation and force themselves to come in for their first pit stops.
Worth mentioning, Harry, that at the front, Lando Norris has just set 2 consecutive fastest laps and closed on teammate Piastri by 3/10 on both of them. So that gap now is down to 8.7 seconds. Let's see if Norris can keep cutting away at that.
Yeah, absolutely. It is Piastri who leads Norris, Verstappen, Antonelli, Russell the top 5. Albon is 6th, ahead of Sainz, Leclerc, Tsunoda and Hamilton now into the top 10. And we've just seen a brilliant camera shot of Laura Müller, who is Esteban Ocon's engineer at Haas. Her live reaction to the fight between Ocon and Hamilton, and wincing almost in pain as Ocon gets overtaken. But a fantastic battle. I think we should have more engineer camera reaction shots.
And I'm just trying to work out how you described her expression over the radio, because it was absolutely wonderful. You could see her looking at the monitor and wincing, and then she realised she was live on TV, and she kind of had this rather embarrassed expression as well. So it does show you that the emotion that everyone is involved with this sport feels as engineers watch their driver. There's nothing they can do, and they're just having to trust that the driver's got it right.
Well, she winces in pain, and then Esteban Ocon comes into the pits for a stop and heads back out again. Pit stoppers so far include Hadjar, Ocon, Bortoletto, Stroll, and not Lawson. He's at the back because he got involved in that incident with doing. So they've stopped so far. Where is this rain we've been promised, Jenny Gow? Any signs?
No, absolutely not. And as I look out of the skies, it's very white. It was black at the start of this race, and those clouds seem to have disappeared. I can't see this rain coming anytime soon.
Well, we keep on weather watch. Thank you, Jenny. The clouds, well, they were, I have to say, out of our commentary box at least, a little darker at the start of this Grand Prix, but it has brightened up slightly. Now, Damon, you've got a very technical radar in front of you. What can you see?
I've got an app which shows me rain, and it's absolutely teeming down in Miami, just down the road. It's about half an hour away, as you said, or an hour, depending on the traffic.
Or if you're in the express lane.
But just north of us, there's a big band of rain as well. But how long it's going to take to get here, I don't know. We are right on the edge of what appears to be a band of rain as well, light rain. But it could rain. I'm not going to be able to give you a precise answer to that one. But it's all around us except for where we are.
Well, we'll keep an eye on it. That's the voice of the 1996 Formula 1 World Champion, Damon Hill. You're listening to 5 Live F1 and meteorologist, I should say, our expert weather forecaster, Damon Hill.
I'm just reading the map, honestly, Harry.
It's how you interpret the data, Damon.
I hope these pictures mean something. I think they do. But I'm watching now. My eye is on Lando Norris. He keeps putting in fastest laps. He's nibbling into the lead of Oscar Piastri, but I should think Oscar is watching that happen, and he's deciding how hard to push to extend the stint that he's on these tyres. They're going quite a long way. It's 25 laps now, so it's coming up for a decision time at some point for a pit stop for them.
We also mentioned that influence of dirty air right at the start of our programme as well. Piastri will have the benefit of now finally being in that clean air. Norris, for all the good it will be to close up, here he is.
Possible light drops of rain for the next 2 laps in turn 17 mostly.
Light rain possibly in turn 17 mostly in the course of the next 2 laps. That's the heavy braking zone, the left-hander at the end of that long back straight. I feel like this is deja vu. We've had races like this before where the rain has been predicted but never come. As here we go, first of the big hitters up front, Kimi Antonelli comes into the pits. Let's head down to Jenny Gao.
Yes, the 22 pit crew gather around the car. They slip on a pair of... Oh, it's a long stop. He's been held because of the Williams coming in. That's terrible timing for him. Hard tyres on, but that's not good.
Oh no, it was Carlos Sainz who was coming into the pits. It looked like he had a decent shot to get out, but after a collision for Kimi Antonelli yesterday in the sprint race, he was on the receiving end of Max Verstappen being released into the path of him. Mercedes not wanting to take any risks. That would have cost him time. So the first of the pit stoppers up front then, Kimi Antonelli. Carlos Sainz also coming in then and being sent on his way. So they have now finally run out of life on those medium tyre runners, switching now to the hard on lap 26 of 57. Piastri leads though 8.4 seconds to his teammate Lando Norris.
Yeah, and we are actually talking about tyre strategies. We're watching George Russell, who was actually started on the hard. He's still out there, so it's going to be very interesting to see how deep he goes into this race and what the outcome will be if he goes for a long first stint on the hard tyre. How quick he'll be, which he should be pretty quick when he changes to mediums at the end, because they have to use different compounds, so he has to go to the medium eventually. We'll know how that turns out in a few laps' time.
Max Verstappen has just been given the call to box. That means to come into the pits. He's lying in third. He heads in to the pit lane, stamps on the brakes, hits the pit limiter and drives past Jenny Gao.
Yes, and once again, a Williams has got in the way of him. Hard tyres are on for Verstappen. I'm not sure exactly how long he had to wait. Not as long as Kimi Antonelli, but those Williams are being a bit tricky.
Yeah, that was the other one of Alex Albon. 2.7 seconds stop, though, for Max Verstappen. That's better than they have achieved on average this season. Alex Albon a little slower in the Williams to get out. And will he get out ahead of Kimi Antonelli? No, he won't. Antonelli managing to recover on that one after a slow pit stop. Antonelli 8th, Albon feeds out in 9th spot.
I think Kimi would have been really cheesed off if he'd come out behind the Williams there, but he's got away with it by the skin of his teeth, and he's got a bit of a clear track ahead of him now, and no doubt he'll be extending his gap to the Williams.
Max Verstappen then, who was struggling for grip in the early stages of this Grand Prix, has now pitted and has fed out in 7th position. None of the top 6 have yet to pit. George Russell and Lewis Hamilton running the alternate strategy. They're starting on the harder tyre and still in this one. Russell 3rd, Hamilton 6th. Everybody else up inside that top 6 is on the medium tyre, and Hamilton has got company in the form of Max Verstappen on much quicker tyres. You're listening to 5 Live's coverage of Formula 1, round 6 of the championship here in Miami. Couple of Premier League results to bring you up to speed with. Full-time Chelsea 3, Liverpool 1 as Chelsea strengthened their bid for a place in next season's Champions League with victory against the newly crowned Premier League champions Liverpool at Stamford Bridge. Also in the Bundesliga, England captain Harry Kane has won the first major trophy of his career after Bayern Munich were confirmed as Bundesliga champions after Freiburg drew against Bayer Leverkusen 2-2 for that one. Over in the Scottish Premiership as well, it was 1-1 as Celtic came from behind to deny Rangers a 3rd straight victory over their rivals, as Adam Ida's second half strike frustrated Barry Ferguson's home side in the Scottish Premiership. That's what's happened elsewhere in the day's sport, but right now our action and eyes are all on the remaining laps. 28, lap 57 of this Miami Grand Prix. Damon Hill is alongside me.
Yeah, I was just looking at the gap for Piastri to make a stop and come out ahead of George Russell. So, he's 21 seconds behind George, who hasn't stopped yet. But, don't want to be stuck behind a slow car. We're watching something happening on a Haas.
It's a slow-moving Ollie Behrman in the Haas. Now, is this going to bring out a bit of a safety car potentially? Can he keep going? He's going very slowly at the moment. It's lap 29 of 57. McLaren are reacting here, or are they? They were about to run into the pit lane, but they come back in. No yellow flag out on track. We haven't seen quite what happened to Behrman. He ran wide and is going very slowly around this circuit. He's dropped down to last. Ferrari are out in the pit lane. Jenny Gow.
Yes, it's starting to rain in the pit lane. A wave of people just putting on plastic mechs in the grandstands, but Mercedes have thought again. They're coming back in. I think they were just about to pit Russell.
It's a virtual safety car, Jenny. Virtual safety car as Oliver Behrman pulls off. He is out of this one. The British driver, the rookie, the full-time rookie this season, has had a pretty disastrous Miami Grand Prix weekend. But virtual safety car then means shorter pit stops, but it's slightly slow on the front left for Lewis Hamilton. 3.4 seconds for the Ferrari driver. That's not up to their usual standards. So you can gain time under a virtual safety car. The pit loss compared to the usual 20 seconds is around about 9 seconds because everybody on the track has to slow down and hit a delta that comes up on their dash. Lando Norris is told to box. Piastri is ahead of him. The lead driver will normally get right of way, and I wonder if they're going to try and double stack here, depending on where they are out on the circuit. If Norris can just fall back slightly, what's the gap? 11.4 seconds. I think Norris is falling back slightly to allow that double stack to take place, as Piastri is also told to box. So this is playing into the hands of McLaren.
This is painful to watch. They're crawling along to the delta. They can't go faster or slower than a certain amount. They have to get back to the pits, and all the time that's going on there, what you don't want to have happen is while you're in the pits, the virtual safety car to be deactivated and the race be back on, because everyone will just be legging it up the road. So they've probably done that calculation, how long it's going to get rid of that, how long it's going to take to get rid of the Ollie Behrman's car.
In comes Oscar Piastri, 2.2 seconds, and he is sent on his way. And the double stack working nicely for McLaren as Lando Norris comes in, hits his marks. The mechanics get to work, changing all 4 tyres from medium to hard. And George Russell, who started on the hard tyre going long into this race, he also comes into the pits as well. So this has worked out nicely for McLaren, who had an advantage over the rest of the field anyway. But in doing so, and pitting under the virtual safety car, have saved themselves some time and secured themselves a 1-2 continuing on. George Russell feeds out into the fast lane. He's now switched over to the medium tyre. This will benefit the likes of George Russell as well, running long. So too for Charles Leclerc, who just drops down to 5th as Max Verstappen is going to lose out here to George Russell, who makes hay thanks to the virtual safety car and puts himself up into those podium positions, with Max Verstappen now down to 4th. However, the green flag is back out. Virtual safety car has ended.
And they're racing again, but of course George Russell is on the medium tyre. We don't know if that's going to be quicker, whether the Mercedes on a medium is quicker than a Red Bull on a hard tyre. We're going to find out pretty soon.
Yeah, who didn't quite make it into the pits on that one? I think Hülkenberg didn't come in, neither did Pierre Gasly, who's worked himself up to 11th from the pit lane. Bortoletto's radio.
My engine is failing. Okay. Yeah, I cannot drive like this.
That's the Brazilian rookie, the reigning Formula 2 champion, who is managed by Fernando Alonso. Gabriel Bortoletto with possible engine failure. He's dropping down the order. We're about to see what happened to Ollie Behrman. Puff of smoke out the back, and he lost his engine as well, as it just cuts out and loses all power for the British racer in the Haas. Does he hit the curb? He comes through, this is coming through sector 1. No, he takes that nicely, just a puff of smoke and it's gone.
Oh my god, I lost everything.
Yeah, I think you've had a PU issue.
That's interesting, Harry, because that's 2 Ferrari engines that have failed within a lap of each other, it seems.
Yeah, that's very interesting, isn't it? And it's so unusual to see power unit failures, or engine failures, if you want to call them that, in current modern Formula 1. They tend to go on for a very long time without any problems. We're watching some pretty exciting dicing going on between
Kimi Antonelli
Kimi
and
Antonelli.
Alex Albon. It's Mercedes power versus Mercedes power, but the works entry gets overtaken by the customer as Antonelli loses out to Alex Albon, who is on an absolute mission in that Williams, looking planted as he comes through sector 1, sweeping left, sweeping right. Albon having a brilliant run in this race. He's currently in 5th. His teammate Carlos Sainz is in 7th. I think Sainz being slightly undone there by the virtual safety car, but either way, Williams looking at double points finishes back-to-back after the last 2 weeks ago in Saudi Arabia. It's like 31 and 57 of the Miami Grand Prix. 7.2 seconds splits the two McLaren drivers. Piastri leads Norris. Now George Russell, who's benefited from the VSC, he's up into 3rd ahead of Max Verstappen. Alex Albon, who is currently in 5th spot ahead of Kimi Antonelli's Mercedes. Carlos Sainz has got Charles Leclerc, his old teammate at Ferrari, in his mirrors. I think Sainz might be secretly enjoying the fact that he is ahead of both Ferraris. Sainz 7th, Leclerc 8th, Hamilton 9th, Hülkenberg, who hasn't stopped, is in the top 10.
There's a certain amount of delight going on at Williams, I should think. Not only do they use the same power unit as Mercedes, the works team, but they're doing better than them. And of course, James Vowles used to be part of the Mercedes works team as well, so his results, or his works, hard work, the team's hard work is starting to show very, very good rewards as we watch the replay of the overtake of Alexander Albon or attempted overtake on Alexander Albon. I always say Kimi went deep, that's what happened, he locked up, so he'll have to look at that when he goes back after the end of the race and do a post-race debrief and say, okay, well, why did I outbrake myself when I was trying to defend the position there?
5-second time penalty coming in from race control. That's for Yuki Tsunoda, who's being caught for speeding in the pit lane. So that 5 seconds will be added on to the end of his race time unless he makes another stop, in which case he'll come into the pit and then the team won't be able to touch the car for 5 seconds. But the one-stop strategy here is the one that, if all things follow as they should do, sees no more stops. However, the rain is still threatening here, but it's a never-ending wait for it to turn up in full force.
And I'm really interested in this starting on a hard strategy. It seems to be quite a profitable one. I know we did have a virtual safety car, and that may have played a factor, but we've got Lewis Hamilton now, which is within a second. He's actually closed that gap to under a second. That will get DRS on his teammate, Charles Leclerc. And Charles will be thinking, where did he come from? I thought I was ahead of him and quicker all weekend, but Lewis typically is having a good race, which is good for him, and he needs to get some confidence back at that team in Ferrari. He's been having not a torrid time, but it's certainly been up and down, I think, this year, but he'll be pleased with his performance so far.
Just seen a replay of Tsunoda essentially carrying far too much speed into the chicane that enters the pit lane and almost running across it. Virtual safety car back out on track. Everybody slows down once again. The gap's trying to be maintained between the drivers, and it's for Gabriel Bortoletto Sauber. We heard him on the radio a few moments ago complaining about his engine, and now he's been told to box to retire the car, but he hasn't made it back, and he's pulled up on the inside at a exit point on the back straight. That's brought out the VSC, so hopefully they'll be able to wheel that out. But Bortoletto, then the reigning Formula 2 champion, retiring out of this one. We're now down to 17 cars.
Wow. This is, I haven't heard, you don't normally hear that in modern Formula 1. The retirement due to mechanical issues has been very rare recently.
I don't know what Bortoletto was doing there. He gave us that radio transmission about the engine failing, and then he trundled round about 10 seconds off the pace in each sector I was watching. Here's some Verstappen radio.
Second watch lifted, there's a yellow.
That's Max Verstappen, who once again wants to dob George Russell in if he can get that position back. Russell managing to jump Verstappen thanks to a pit stop under the virtual safety car, which saves you well. Under green flag, you're losing about 20 seconds in the pits. Under a virtual safety car, you're only losing around 9 seconds. Russell benefited off that. So that 34 of 57, Piastri, Norris and George Russell are the top 3 in this race. Jenny Gow.
Yes, Pierre Gasly just came in and pitted under that virtual safety car. First pit stop for him of the day, going from a hard to a medium. I think that's quite good for him, and only Hulkenberg hasn't pitted now.
Green flag racing once more. Indeed, Hulkenberg up in the top 10, but fighting just ahead of him are the Williams of Carlos Sainz versus his old sparring partner at Ferrari, side by side with Charles Leclerc coming out of turn 17. The Williams not giving an inch, forcing Leclerc to work hard for this one. Gives him the inside, coming through the right-hand sweeper. Leclerc with the DRS. Sainz moves over to the right, squeezes him, then sharpens to the left. They both run deep. Lewis Hamilton through, but not on both of them. Leclerc gets the lead in this battle, followed by Lewis Hamilton, and Sainz loses out to both of them. Wonderful.
That was so close, and Lewis nearly took both of them while they were squabbling over that position, and but he's managed to do a clean pass, or both of them have done a clean pass on Carlos Sainz anyway. If you're watching a replay, this is exciting stuff. We're watching wheel-to-wheel action, some very tight racing with braking into the end of the straight, and Charles goes deep and wide and is pushed right up against the wall as Carlos Sainz gives him very little room. And while he was doing that, Lewis is in the background watching all this go on as they go down to turn 1. Again, there's another deep dive with Charles Leclerc, who's got understeer, and then Lewis looked like he was going to get them both, but he only managed to get Carlos Sainz. But anyway, they're through that.
Oh, there was contact. There was a bit of contact there with the front wing of Carlos Sainz tapping the rear left of Charles Leclerc, but I think they might have got away with that one. And this was, we're just now hearing the sounds of Lewis Hamilton, who had the best view in the house. It almost looked like he had a clear road in front of him. It opened up coming through turn 1, but then as it flicks through to the left-hander of 2, well, there was his teammate, and he just then allows Leclerc to take his space on the track. But Hamilton here is starting to fight back on his teammate. We've got the two Ferraris in close quarters. Sainz just behind them, hasn't let them escape up the road too long. Crucially here, there's a tyre disparity. Charles Leclerc on the hard, Lewis Hamilton on the medium. Sweeping through the first sector non-stop.
I'm waiting for the call on the radio from Carlos Sainz saying he hit my front wing, or whether he's got damage or not, but so far no news.
Well, I think Sainz, I remember him saying, I think a couple of races ago, he needs to learn to pick his battles a little better. But actually the Ferraris, well, they're not running with the top runners at the moment. They are struggling for outright pace. Really tough qualifying for both of them. Charles Leclerc started this Grand Prix in 8th, Lewis Hamilton down in 12th. So it's been a good recovery so far for Lewis Hamilton. Still a way to go in this race, though. Lap 36 of 57. With Oscar Piastri leading by 7.3 seconds to his teammate Lando Norris. Then it's a further 19 seconds back to George Russell. Max Verstappen has lost time to Russell now in 4th. Albon in 5th. Kimi Antonelli 6th. Then comes this battle between the two Ferraris. Leclerc and Hamilton. Sainz in 9th. Yuki Tsunoda currently occupies 10th place. Nico Hulkenberg, one of the only drivers who has not pitted in this Grand Prix, is up to 11th in the one remaining Sauber. Hadjar 12th. Ocon 13th. Gasly 14th. Alonso is 15th ahead of his teammate Stroll. Liam Lawson is the last car in this Grand Prix, just 17 left, with Ross Gabriel Bortoletto in the Sauber and Ollie Bevan in the Haas, whose Ferrari engines seem to have gone kaput, and Jack Doohan in the Alpine involved in an incident going into turn 1 on lap 1. That saw him clash with the Liam Lawson car, the Racing Bulls. Doohan out of this one.
I'm just burning up my tyres behind him. Understood.
Lewis Hamilton saying, I'm just burning up my tyres behind him. That to me seems that not a very disguised code, Damon, of come on, let me through.
Yeah, it's basically asking for the team to give a message to Charles to get away, move out of the way for Lewis to get up the road and try and get a Mercedes, Kimi Antonelli's car, which is 5 seconds ahead of them. And he's got a point, the longer he stays behind Charles Leclerc, the worse his tyres will be and the less chance he'll have of getting another point for the team.
Lap 37 of 57. The closest battles out on track at the moment are between Isaac Hadjar in 12th and Esteban Ocon in 13th, and the two Ferraris. That's the sound you're hearing right now. Charles Leclerc ahead of his teammate Lewis Hamilton. Tyre disparity between the two. Leclerc on the harder rubber, Hamilton on the medium tyre. Heading down that back straight at the moment, with Lewis Hamilton gaining the advantage of DRS. The letterbox on the rear wing opens up, then closes under braking. No sign of any Ferrari driver orchestrations there. I have to say, I think Lando Norris, has he just taken the fastest lap back from his teammate Oscar Piastri, closing that gap to just under 7 seconds now.
Yeah, he's been nibbling away. He's been gradually pushing harder.
You know, I should just sit here, start the whole race, and come back to you.
As Hamilton continuing to make his case to be let through on his teammate Charles Leclerc, who is on the hard tyre, Hamilton on the medium. It feels like the two McLarens are exchanging fastest lap times at the moment, but advantage Norris for the time being. That gap 6.7. Is this battle for the race win not yet over?
Oh, well, there's still a long way to go. We've got 20 laps to go, and of course Lando has got, historically, I feel like he's able to extend his stint and keep the performance of the tyres. Whether he's taking too much out by pushing now is a question. I'm sure he's smart enough to know that you can't kill your tyres at this stage, because Oscar doesn't have to push. He'd be watching that gap and he'd probably be thinking 6.8 or 7 seconds or 6 seconds is enough. If I can just keep that gap, then Lando will never be able to catch me. I was watching Lewis trying to get past his teammate. And if you don't ask, going back to the Ferrari situation with Lewis and Charles Leclerc, as Lewis is now tucking under the gearbox of Charles Leclerc with DRS, he's getting a slipstream down the back straight. Whether they've told Charles to let Lewis pass or not, I don't know yet, but if you don't ask, you don't get, as they say.
Absolutely. The first real battle we've seen between the two Ferrari drivers. Here's Hamilton's radio.
Keep the DRS to Charles and go ahead like this. It's behind 1.5.
You guys...
Well, they want Hamilton to allow him through, but then they want him to keep Charles Leclerc within that 1 second to allow Charles Leclerc to benefit the DRS so he doesn't fall behind Carlos Sainz. So it seems here that the medium tyre is definitely the preferential one to be on at this stage, but they want to try and keep Leclerc with him. Hamilton didn't seem too enthused by that call.
Well, this is it about Ferrari, isn't it? This is that no one is bigger than Ferrari, even if you're Lewis Hamilton. But I'm sure that Lewis will be having things to say about that. They do pay him an awful lot of money, and they want to see some results. Well, he's trying to say to them, look, I can give you the results, but I can't be getting the radio.
This is not good teamwork. That's all I'm going to say.
Yeah. So here we go.
Lewis Hamilton making his thoughts clear as they make their way over the chicane into the 90-degree left-hander of turn 16, down that back straight. This will be the perfect opportunity, if they're going to do it, to swap the positions. And here we go. Does Charles Leclerc back off? Does he fight Lewis Hamilton, who gets the DRS, closes up with the aid of the toe as well? Hamilton moves to the inside. Leclerc is told to swap the positions, and finally, after I think the 5th time of asking, they let Hamilton through and escape up the road. Will he play ball and keep Charles Leclerc within that DRS range?
No, I don't think he will. I think he's off. I think he's up the road.
He's already a second behind. Nip and tuck.
I think he did. It's the right call. I think Lewis's call was right. They've got a faster car on the track who can get another car further up the road before the end of the race, and I think that was the right move to make. Call to make. Why should he have to battle his teammate? They could keep that up for lap after lap and ruin Lewis's tyres and lose the chance of getting extra points.
I agree with you, but the only risk for them, and this is what they'll have been thinking of, is that Carlos Sainz is now within DRS range behind behind Leclerc, and of course if Hamilton doesn't get Antonelli but Sainz comes back at Leclerc, then they're going to lose more points by doing this, not gain them. But I would have done the same thing, Damon. I agree with you.
I'm sorry, they can't be defending someone if Charles Leclerc is going to sink back into the clutches of Carlos Sainz, then I'm afraid the Ferrari needs to be faster.
Well, I think we all know that, don't we?
Those are the voices. The BBC's F1 correspondent Andrew Benson, the 1996 Formula 1 World Champion Damon Hill, alongside myself, Harry Benjamin. We've got 17 cars left in this one, and we've lost 3. Jenny Gow's got more.
I think we've lost 4 now. Liam Lawson has just retired his racing balls. I haven't found out exactly why, but he coasted down the pit lane and is pulled off, so that's another retiree. And I tell you what, Oliver Merman for the Haas team just walked past me in the pit lane. He looks a sorry state. Terrible race for him. Terrible weekend, really.
Yeah, it looked like, I just saw some images of Liam Lawson's Racing Bulls car. It looked like he was carrying floor damage from probably that turn 1 incident with Doohan and managing it and finally calling time on lap 39 of 57 of this race as we now tick over to lap 40. Lawson, Bortoletto, Behrman and Doohan, the cars that are no longer in this race. Lewis Hamilton now unleashed. Here he is.
In China, I got out of the way when you're on a different strategy.
Understood. We swap the cars.
Have a tea break while you're at it. Come on.
Lewis Hamilton not mincing his words. He is not happy at the delay that Ferrari have taken, the time they have taken to sort out what they're going to do on the track. And Lewis Hamilton, you have to say to him, well, now he's clear. He's already dropped Leclerc 1.5 seconds up the road. There's a tyre disparity here, and Kimi Antonelli is within reach.
Exactly, and this has always been Ferrari's problem. They seem to be paralysed on the pit wall, and he's basically saying to them, please make a decision or I'll make one for you. And I think he's made the right call there. And that may have taught them a lesson. You know, this is motor racing, and sometimes the driver can call the shots.
I think I'm going to have a tea break while you're at it printed on a T-shirt, because I think that's brilliant. But Lewis Hamilton just encapsulates proper British turn of phrase there. He is 5 seconds at the moment back from Kimi Antonelli, now 4.9, so he's closing.
Of course, if they had an espresso, they may have been a little bit quicker in making that call. But of course, there is also caffeine in tea as well.
Well, here we go. Here's the other side of the story.
I need Lewis to go faster. I've just got the dirt here now.
That's Charles Leclerc, who wants his teammate to, head down the road, because he's picking up all that dirty air that's kicked up from the vortices and the downforce that's generated from these Formula One cars. And that dirty air, it's basically a wall of hot air, Damien, that just damages the tyres from the car behind.
Yeah, I don't know what he's talking about. He's outside a DRS zone range at the moment. So, anyway, Lewis is 1.4 seconds ahead of him. He's
slightly
closed
delayed
the gap.
message, possibly,
But we're just starting to the camera, the Formula One coverage is starting to show the two McLarens as they sense that the gap is closing between Oscar Piastri and Lando Norris. Lando Norris, as I said, nibbling little tiny bits out of the lead of Oscar Piastri as we go to lap 42. There's 57.
Sorry, Damon, I was trying to catch the end of your sentence there, not the middle of it. But anyway, there's another gap closing just behind them as well, or not just behind them, because George Russell's 25 seconds nearly behind in third place. But Max Verstappen has been inching closer to Russell over the last few laps, and he's now got the gap down to 1.8 seconds.
Verstappen, who lost out on that podium position with the virtual safety car coming out early doors for Ollie Behrman's Haas. That allowed Russell to get a cheap pit stop and promote himself up and Verstappen down, but the Dutchman is fighting back, having been in the lead of this race, started on pole position, and we're going to continue the run here in Miami. I think it's fair to say on lap 42 of 57, the pole sitter still yet to convert into a race win around this circuit. The stat continues.
Well, it's not over yet. I mean, no one's won from the front row. Lando Norris was on the front row and he's second at the moment. We'll have to see.
I think the stat, no pole sitter's ever won. The pole sitter has always finished second and P2 has always finished third. So we're not quite there really, but this is the sound of the man who was on pole on lap 42, curving his way round turn 12 into the left-hander of 13. Max Verstappen currently sitting in fourth place and chasing down George Russell's Mercedes into the left-hander of turn 16, onto the throttle through third gear, then up to fourth as he cycles through the gearbox down that long back straight, reaching speeds of over 330 kilometres an hour. He won't get the aid of the DRS just yet. He's 1.7 seconds back. You've got to be within a second at the detection point to get that advantage where the rear wing will open up in the designated zone and give you a few kilometres an hour advantage over your competitor. He stays fourth, lap 43 at 57. Albon is fifth. Kimi Antonelli is sixth, with Lewis Hamilton 4.2 seconds now behind the man that replaced him at Mercedes. Charles Leclerc has just been on the radio. I can't remember exactly what he said, but he
said, I'm stuck now. So he's
stuck.
within 1.1. He's not got to within DRS zone, but he has closed the gap a little bit back to Lewis Hamilton. So the pair of them are now going round together, not really closing a gap. Well, they're getting a little bit closer to Kimi, but not at a great rate of knots. So Charles is making it known that he's not too happy about having to give up that position to Lewis if he's not going to disappear into the distance.
No, not at all. Lap 43.57. Piastri, Norris, Russell, Verstappen, Albon, the top five. Antonelli is sixth ahead of Hamilton, Leclerc, Sainz, Tsunoda rounds out the top 10. They're your point scorers. Jenny Gow, what news do you bring?
Well, I just thought I'd have a look at the scores as it stands. If it was to finish like this, Piastri would lead the championship. That gap going to 16 points after Miami weekend, ahead of Norris, and then Verstappen on 99 points, Russell on 93. But looking at the championship standings, McLaren 246 points if it ends like this. Mercedes 141. My friends just texted me saying McLaren just look unbeatable.
They really do. I mean, we've come to this circuit, and while qualifying was so close, the margin's so fine, and with, well, the team threatening a series of upgrades coming over the next few races, McLaren are looking quick, but that gap has come down ever so slightly again, hasn't it?
Harry, you know, but it's only at tenths of a second per lap, perhaps. You know, we would have to see a late charge. It's just as we talk, it's gone back up to 6 seconds.
I mean, Piastri, is he managing out there?
I think he's managing. I mean, I was just going to talk about that. You know, what is it like to lead a Grand Prix when you've got a good advantage, but not, say, a massive one? He's just watching that gap. If I was Oscar Piastri, first of all, it's quite lonely out the front there. We've been watching all the action through the field, but they're not interested in any of that. What they're interested in is remaining calm and doing a precise job and going at a pace that you're comfortable at, but at the same time keeping the gap to your teammate. And I think he's managing this brilliantly. It's going to be very difficult for Lando to close up, and even if he does close up, how does he get past him?
That battle still tense, still brewing with laps left in this race. We're on lap 45 of 57. You're listening to 5 Live's coverage of the Miami Grand Prix, round 6 of the Formula One World Championship. We've got Stephen Nolan on the way here on 5 Live from 11 o'clock. That's all still to come after the close of this Grand Prix. And if you've missed any of the action from the day's sport, Premier League results coming your way after Charles Leclerc.
Separation between my legs is to the right. I'm getting stuck with it.
But Charles Leclerc not quite comfortable with something inside his cockpit as he continues down the back straight, trying to keep up with Lewis Hamilton. He's actually closed the gap to his teammate now, 2 within a second. So Leclerc starting to come back to Hamilton. But in the Premier League, full-time Chelsea 3, Liverpool 1. Brentford kept their hopes of European qualification alive by coming from behind to beat Manchester United in a 4-3 thriller at the G-Tech Community Stadium. Brighton 1, Newcastle 1 full time there. Alexander Isak earned a draw for Newcastle with a late penalty against Brighton at the Amex Stadium. West Ham and Tottenham full time there, 1-1. Big news from the Bundesliga as well. England captain Harry Kane has won the first major trophy of his career after Bayern Munich were confirmed as Bundesliga champions after a 2-2 draw between Freiburg and Bayer Leverkusen. And in the Scottish Premiership, Rangers won and Celtic won, so drawing there. That's what's happening today throughout the sports news. But here in the heat of the Miami, the sun hasn't quite peeked through the clouds. The rain has abated slightly. My name's Harry Benjamin. Damon Hill joins me in this commentary box, and we're enjoying quite an enthralling Grand Prix so far.
While you were talking football, I'm watching the gap.
You're doing the hard work.
Just as I was saying, I'm watching this gap in the famous, to echo the famous Murray Walker. Watch the gap. It's now down to 5 seconds. Lando Norris has actually started to make a move on Oscar Piastri with 11 laps to go.
4.8 seconds now between Oscar Piastri and Lando Norris, the two McLarens looking to secure a 1-2, but in what order will it be with just over 10 laps remaining of this Grand Prix? George Russell is third. He's still got a bit of pressure from behind from Max Verstappen, who's 1.5 seconds back. Albon the top 5. Antonelli is 6th. Hamilton is 7th. Has been making gains on Antonelli, but having been let through on his teammate Charles Leclerc dropped back by a couple of seconds, but he's now closed into within DRS zone. So a bit of friction going on there with in the Ferrari debrief post-race. Sainz is 9th with Yuki Tsunoda rounding out the point scorers. That's the top 10. Hadjar, Ocon, Gasly, Hülkenberg and Alonso the top 15, with Lance Stroll 16th. And last of the runners retired and out of this race, Liam Lawson with crash damage from turn 1. Gabriel Bortoleto and Ollie Behrman, both with Ferrari power units in the back of their Sauber and Haas cars respectively, with suspected engine issues. They've stopped in this Grand Prix, and Jack Doohan involved in that incident with Lawson crashed out in turn 1. So losing 4 drivers in this field. It's been a tough one for the rookies, with only Isaac Hadjar remaining along with Kimi Antonelli.
Yeah, it's been rough for some of the guys new to Formula One. They're finding out that it can be very disappointing. It's a hard game. You have to be able to ride these disappointments and hope that you get a better run later on. Also, stay out of trouble if you can and not collide with people. We're watching this race between the Ferraris, and they are closing on Kimi Antonelli, but I don't think Charles really should have any complaints, because Lewis, if anything, is dragging him towards Kimi Antonelli in the Mercedes. But as we speak, Lando Norris has got it down to 4.4 seconds gap on Oscar Piastri with 10 laps to go. 4.3 now, and I was talking about the state of mind of the driver in the front, watching a gap and maintaining it. He will now be panicking. I won't be panicking, is probably too strong a word, but he will be thinking, certainly, the alarm bells will be ringing a little bit, because that is quite a deficit he's lost, or a gain that Lando has made on him in only a few laps. Whether he can keep that up, whether Lando will cook his tyres and then pay the price when he gets further down the road, I don't know. But at the moment, he's definitely closing that gap and is sniffing perhaps the opportunity to be on his teammate's gearbox before too long.
Well, this is the interesting thing, isn't it? It is kind of a straight fight between the two, because they double stacked both McLarens on the same lap, both putting on the hard tyres. They're both the 18-year-old hard tyres that they've got on there. So it will be a case of, well, how well is Oscar Piastri managing, or is he actually struggling with Lando Norris pushing now the gap down to 4.1 seconds? But Lando Norris he continues to push and continues to close. We'll start to feel the effect of that dirty air. One person feeling the effect of his tyres overheating is Charles Leclerc in the Ferrari, who haven't been asked to let Lewis Hamilton through, who's on the medium tyre, compared to Charles Leclerc being on the hard tyre. Well, he eventually did what he was told, and he's now closed in to 0.6 of a second with 10 laps to go in this Grand Prix.
As we get very close to that, dropping into the 3 seconds gap, we're on 4.2. It got down to 4 seconds gap between Lando Norris and Oscar Piastri. But I'm looking at the gap also between Verstappen and George Russell, and this medium tyre that George Russell is on. The reverse strategy seems to be paying dividends, because Verstappen cannot get close, really. He's not made much ground on George Russell in third place.
Well, these battles continue to go. We think right to the checkered flag. That rain never turned up, did it? Well, good still. But David Hill, our weather reporter there, what's your app saying?
Well, it's saying it's gone. It's a lovely sunny day, it says. But, maybe a bit overcast and maybe scattered showers.
Scattered showers.
But not here.
But no. It seems either way to have delivered a fairly interesting Miami Grand Prix. Certainly those first 20 laps, absolutely frenetic between Verstappen and the two McLarens. It was wonderful racing. We've really enjoyed some great battles so far. Slightly petering out with a couple of gaps stabilising. The closest gap is between the two Ferrari drivers at the moment. Half a second as Charles Leclerc really closes in under braking into the left-hander of turn 17. Just 2 more corners see off this lap. Leclerc, I think, will be vying for a move, or an orchestrated one at least, to try and show that, I'd quite like my position back if possible. Or are we going to get some wheel-to-wheel racing between the Ferraris?
I think there's going to be some interesting conversations after this race, because Charles is definitely not too happy about what happened, and he's now closing up the gap back again on Lewis Hamilton. And how often do you see a car get caught, overtaken, and then start to catch the car that overtook it again and then retake the place? That doesn't happen that often.
Well, I mean, look, Hamilton looked like he had the speed advantage, and he should do, because he was on the medium tyre. But he was about 5-6 seconds back from Kimi Antonelli. He has closed that gap, but he hasn't really been able to get it anywhere under 2.9 seconds, 3 seconds. That's where he's teetering about, and so that's where he's kind of petered out in that Ferrari. He's not able to make any more gains on Kimi Antonelli's Mercedes, which lies 6th at the moment.
And Oscar Piastri has received the message, and he sent out his own message by equaling Lando Norris's lap time by dipping into the 29s and extending a little bit, or at least maintaining that gap and stopping it from getting smaller. So Oscar is saying to Lando, look, I can go faster, and you can try and catch me up if you like, but you're not going to get past me.
Lap 50 of 57, 4 seconds split the two McLarens in first and second, with Norris vying to try and close in and repeat what he did last year and take Grand Prix victory, but he is running out of time, running out of tyres. Or has Piastri had him covered the whole time? George Russell is currently in third, keeping Max Verstappen at bay in the 1.6 region. Then it's Albon. Antonelli is the top six. The two Ferraris continue to do battle, half a second splitting Lewis Hamilton and Charles Leclerc. Sainz in 9th, Tsunoda in 10th, Hadjar is 11th, Esteban Ocon is 12th, with Pierre Gasly 13th, battling with Nico Hülkenberg, who was trying to close in actually on Pierre Gasly and looks to be a little quicker at the moment, but is running out of time to do it. Alonso and the two Aston Martins at the back, 15th and 16th, continuing their miserable season for the Silverstone team. Lawson's out along with Borsaletto, Behrman and Doohan, and Damon a frantic point to the screen because we've gone under the 4-second mark, haven't we?
He's cracked it, and it's 3.7 now. He's nibbling again. He's making it incrementally. Every sector he goes through, he's finding a tenth or less than a tenth of a second, but it is coming down. It's now 3.6. He's gone in 3.6, so that gap, the response that Oscar put in, it maybe he's going to have to do this again. I think Oscar is going to have to put in a quick lap, or he's going to have to expect Lando Norris right on his gearbox before the end of this race.
Lando was 2/10 quicker in the first sector alone on this lap. Piastri feeling the heat in Miami, trying to cruise his way to victory. Oscar Piastri, coming into this round, had never scored a point in Miami, hadn't finished in a Grand Prix points-paying position. Right now, he's hoping to collect 25.
Are we coming back on Antonelli?
We are, but quite slowly. How much faster could you go in free air?
I have no idea. I have no overheating.
The Ferrari's not making the impact on Mercedes Antonelli that they would have liked. The gap, 2.5 seconds that Antonelli has over them. The two Ferraris desperately trying to get themselves up at least one place in sixth, but you take a big step back, that's not even where they would want to be fighting in the first place. Another sign that Ferrari are in a little bit of trouble at the moment. They have not started this season well, especially considering that they were in the battle to take the Constructors' Championship at the last race of the season. As Hamilton is told, swap the positions. What will he do? Will he make a point and do it extremely quickly? It'll take a while to do it.
I think he'll do it. I think he realises that he's not making any headway there, and if they do this enough times, maybe they'll actually be quicker if they keep changing position and doing DRS on each other, a bit like the peloton.
Yes. Well, I tell you what, they seem both safe actually from Carlos Sainz behind, who's not really made inroads. Lando Norris continuing to close the gap now under 3.5 seconds. Does Charles Leclerc get by on Lewis Hamilton coming in to turn 17? The left-hander at the end of the long back straight? No. The sweeper left, then the flat-out sweeper right. Sees off a lap of this Miami International Autodrome. That gives Charles Leclerc the DRS once more, but no way through for Charles Leclerc, as Hamilton has been told to swap the positions.
Do you remember that quote from Sebastian Vettel when he was asked to change positions and in Red Bull with Mark Webber? And anyway, the next race he said, listen, I was faster, I won. That's the name of the game.
I was faster, I beat him, I won.
I beat him, I won, and it doesn't matter how you achieve it sometimes in Formula One, but I wonder whether we'll see Lewis relent or whether he's just going to keep his position.
We'll try again next lap.
It's okay, it's okay. We are seeing Antonelli. Let's try to get him, and then otherwise we are going to lose more time than anything. Then we discuss after the race.
That was Charles Leclerc's radio, slightly delayed because the move has now been orchestrated. Lewis Hamilton eases off the throttle coming in to the left-hander of turn 11. That allows Charles Leclerc through. Lap 53 of 57. Can Leclerc now mount a challenge on Kimi Antonelli during the two Ferrari squabbles? They've lost a bit of time. It's 3 seconds between Antonelli and Leclerc now. Hamilton gets the aid of the DRS. They both keeping ahead of Carlos Sainz quite nicely. So Antonelli might well be feeling the pressure from the two Ferraris over the course of the next lap. Piastri up front still leads the way, has been responding last lap around, pretty much near on identical sector one time, so he's keeping that 3.9 second gap, ebbing and flowing slightly, but it's not dipping too much yet.
No, it's not, Aaron. Also, the other point to make is the lap times are slower by nearly 0.3 of a second.
And Sainz 1.4 behind.
Going to let fast as well.
That's Lewis Hamilton, who sounds like he's having a great time in that Ferrari today.
I don't think Ferrari completely realise yet what they've got with Lewis Hamilton, but yeah, this is going to be fun. A fun debrief at Ferrari after the race.
3 Ferrari drivers in 7th, 8th and 9th. Sorry, Sainz in the Williams now, isn't he? Tsunoda rounding out the top 10. Really into the closing stages of this Miami Grand Prix now, but a fair few retirements. Doohan, Behrman, Bortoletto and Liam Lawson, Jenny, the latest runner out of this race.
Yes, and the team have just updated me. Unfortunately for Liam Lawson, he had too much damage when he sustained that crash with Jack Doohan, so both of them are out now.
Thanks, Jenny. Yeah, that was way back on lap 1. Hard to remember. Doohan straight out of that, and that brought out an early yellow flag and a virtual safety car. Lawson carrying on, but losing time and losing pace, and in the end deciding to call it quits in his all pink liveried Racing Bulls for this weekend. Lots of teams bringing slightly tweaked new liveries to celebrate being in Miami. And unfortunately that one won't see the checkered flag. His teammate Isaac Hadjar just on the periphery of the points, but about 5 seconds back from them. Actually crucial for Isaac Hadjar. He could well still see a point, because Yuki Tsunoda has a 5-second time penalty to serve for speeding in the pit lane. And Hadjar at the moment, though, he's teetering around 4.95 seconds the gap. The team will tell him there is a point in this for you, Hadjar, if you can just keep under that 5-second mark. So there's still some battles right to the bitter end here.
Indeed there are, and we're watching... actually, is that Dookie or is that Max?
That will be Max Verstappen.
That's Max, yeah, so we're going back to this battle with Max.
Nearly that sort of rally style. He's really wringing the neck of this Red Bull.
But he's not making any inroads. He's on his own, really, in 4th place, and you can see George Russell, but it's just this gap has not really got any better for Max Verstappen. And when you think he was leading the Grand Prix and got pole position, you realise that actually he is struggling with a car that perhaps is less competitive than those around him. That Mercedes have done a fantastic job with George and also with Kimi Antonelli, and Kimi got a little bit unlucky, but the pace of that Mercedes has been good. But nothing is coming close to these McLarens. They are way down the road, 30 seconds ahead of George Russell.
Slight inroads made for Charles Leclerc on Kimi Antonelli, 2.1 seconds the gap, but Antonelli quicker in the first sector, Leclerc slightly quicker in the middle sector, and fairly evenly matched through the final sector. So any time they are taking out, it is, as we heard on the Ferrari radio, small amounts and taking a rather long time, and they are running out of laps to try and pick off the Italian rookie who drives for Mercedes, who's made history this weekend by becoming the youngest ever pole sitter for a Formula One race, having started on the P1 position for the sprint race yesterday. However, it's not quite worked out for Antonelli in either race so far. Looking to pick up points. He wanted a podium for this Grand Prix. That will go the way of his teammate, and I'm sure he will learn a lot from this, just 18 years of age.
And I don't want to pour cold water on this race, but I have to say it's still a 4-second gap between Lando Norris now and Oscar Piastri. And it does look like the job is done. Oscar has done a fantastic job. He's driven at the front, paced himself, kept his tyres, and cleanly raced Max Verstappen, got away as Lando had to... Listen to the radio.
Just make sure you're within 5 seconds, Max, please.
Why is that?
Just keep up the pace, please, Max.
Well, that's Gianpiero Lambiase making sure they stay within 5 seconds of George Russell. Currently it's 2.6.
So they must think Russell might get a penalty, and that might be about that yellow flag infringement that they were talking about earlier.
Noted for
remember?
it.
Yeah. Noted, but nothing else. So maybe Red Bull will appeal after the race. I don't know. The stewards don't seem to have taken any action on it, which would suggest that they don't think there was a problem. But Red Bull, well, anyway, it might not be that. It might be something else. But Red Bull have clearly seen something with Russell that they think they might be able to get him on.
Well, at the moment, if there is any kind of penalty applied to George Russell, whether it be 5 seconds, he would lose that 3rd place to Max Verstappen, who is well within the 5 seconds. 2.7 is the gap between the British driver and the Dutch driver. Albon is 5th ahead of Antonelli, and that gap, though, is closing now between Antonelli and Charles Leclerc. 1.8 seconds. Leclerc is able to close in on the Italian ahead of him, but has he run out of time? Lap 57 of 57 we are on. to the final lap. Oscar Piastri cruising through Sector 1. As I tell you what, I think the sun is just starting to peek out from some of the clouds that from the start of this race were dark and grey. The rain threatened, but never quite came, and now glints of that Miami sunshine are sparking off the papaya McLaren of Oscar Piastri, who has driven beautifully so far in this Grand Prix and just has, well, half a lap to go.
What a way to finish. The sun comes out as he gets nearly to his checkered flag, his victory, which will be just an incredibly well-earned victory for him in the Miami Grand Prix, as he actually goes into the last lap. It's about to start it now.
No McLaren driver has won 3 consecutive races since Oscar Piastri was born in 2001. You've got to go back to Mika Hakkinen across the 1997 and 1998 seasons for a McLaren driver to have 3 consecutive wins on the bounce in a Formula One season. Oscar Piastri, who won in Bahrain, then he won in Saudi Arabia. Couldn't make the sprint win work from him, but so far, having never scored a point in a Miami Grand Prix, with just one more corner to go, the championship leader extends his advantage. Oscar Piastri wins the Miami Grand Prix, and it's a 1-2 for McLaren, with Lando Norris coming home for second, and George Russell will come home, but by some way 32 seconds adrift, and complete the podium for Mercedes.
It was an exciting race. It had its moments the first half of the race. The second half of the race was really a duel between these two, Oscar and Lando. Lando did a very fine job of closing the gap and getting ahead of Max Verstappen finally as well, and also putting some pressure on his teammate Oscar, but really Oscar had it under control by the looks of things the whole way. It was a pretty much faultless performance by him, and as we watch
there's contact late in the day, because Carlos Sainz wants to go at Lewis Hamilton coming out through turn 17. There is contact as they wheels interlock, and to the line, Hamilton holds on to 8th. Carlos Sainz wanted to go at the man who replaced him at the Ferrari team, but couldn't make it happen, but I think he made a point. Sainz 9th, Tsunoda rounds out the top 10, and I think he just holds on to that final point, does Yuki Tsunoda, with a 5-second time penalty applied. Here's your race winner.
Well done, Oscar. Great job. Really smooth. Pace was phenomenal.
Nicely done.
Well, he sounds ecstatic, doesn't he, Oscar Piastri?
Well, I mean, I was going to say, he actually, when he went over the line, he was bashing the steering wheel and waving his arms around, and whilst his voice sounds extremely underimpressed and underwhelmed by his own performance, even despite the compliments from his engineer, he was showing emotion there. He definitely was delighted with this win, but he's a pretty cool customer, is Oscar.
Oscar Piastri then takes the Miami Grand Prix victory ahead of Lando Norris. George Russell came home 3rd ahead of Max Verstappen. Alex Albon, with a fantastic result for Williams, finishes in 5th. Antonelli 6th, held off Leclerc's advances. Then came Leclerc and Lewis Hamilton, who was almost biffed out of the way, Damon, by Carlos Sainz late on the brakes coming into turn 17.
Very rude. We're watching the replay. They're coming down the straight with the DRS that Carlos got, and he's gone for a late lunge.
He moved a bit under brake in there.
Oh, come on.
I think that was a little bit late in the day for Carlos Sainz.
There's a famous commentator that uses a phrase about $1.
A day late and $1 short.
But anyway,
if you're ever going to use that phrase, it's for that move
was one
there.
of those. That was definitely a day late.
Hamilton 8th, Sainz 9th, Yuki Tsunoda gets the final point in 10th, ahead of Isaac Hadjar in 11th, Esteban Ocon 12th, Pierre Gasly 13th, Nico Hülkenberg came home 14th, ahead Fernando Alonso 15th, only ahead of his teammate Lance Stroll. Retirements from this race included Liam Lawson, Gabriel Bortoletto, Oliver Behrman and Jack Doohan. So the rookies not having a fun time out there with various issues for them. But for the man who is no longer a rookie in his 3rd season and challenging for a first World Championship in Formula One, stands tall on the top of his McLaren, jumps down from the car, straight into the arms of his mechanics, his engineers, surrounded by cameras in that Parc Fermé area. Piastri, a race winner in Miami, and crucially extends that championship lead. Did we just see a little bit of dancing from Piastri?
We saw a little bit of exuberance.
A little shimmy.
And he also reluctantly did it, by the looks of things. Anyway, he's going over to shake the hand of Lando Norris, who gives him a sporting tap on the shoulder as well. And they're a good team, these two, and McLaren have absolutely smashed everyone in Formula One today in Miami.
They really have. Norris gets out of his car. He makes his way to be weighed with his glitter ball inspired helmet shining brightly as the light bounces off it. And George Russell once again with a brilliant drive, actually, almost going under the radar. And George Russell continuing to put in good results. It'll be his fourth podium of the season, and he continues to fly in 2025.
He has been doing some great drives, hasn't he, with what is regarded as not the best equipment. But I mean, to beat Max Verstappen with strategy and a car that maybe is slightly, well, certainly he's done a brilliant job, and he took a risky strategy, but it works. He's a thinking driver, isn't he, George? And he's managed to apply that to this race, and it worked for them, and they've got on the podium. But we've got to find out whether there's a penalty.
Nothing's flashed up about that, but Red Bull seem to be convinced otherwise. I think it's particularly important for Russell, though, on a weekend where Antonelli has been quicker and has taken the headlines. Russell has delivered the podium, and that's the job done.
He has. He's done a great job. I mean, Kimi Antonelli did a fantastic weekend as well. He can't be disappointed with where he is. But Alex Albon and Williams will be delighted with their racing this weekend. They've shown that they are a very, very competitive team. They're getting better with every weekend. And both cars in the top 10. I know Carlos Sainz had a bit of a more difficult weekend, but Alex Albon was on the pace and showed he's got the pace even of the Mercedes.
Yeah, as the winning drivers, so of Oscar Piastri and second place Lando Norris, stand and chat while we await to hear from them about how they saw the race. Oscar Piastri extends his championship advantage, now 16 points clear at the top with 131 to his name. Lando Norris in second with Max Verstappen back in third, 99 points. George Russell closing in on him in fourth, and Charles Leclerc rounding out the top five in the Drivers' Championship. Over in the Constructors, McLaren again continue their advantage, now on 246 points to their name. Bit of quick maths on the fly. They're 105 clear of Mercedes in second, Red Bull third, Ferrari, Williams best of the rest, top five, and see a little bit of daylight between themselves and Haas, who was sixth. Didn't pick up any points at Haas, neither did Aston Martin or Racing Bulls or Alpine or Sauber, so they stay where they are. As our race winner pauses for a hug with his girlfriend, a selfie with the CEO, Zak Brown, and Zak Brown must be...
He's such a fan, isn't he, Zach? You know,
isn't he?
He's getting a selfie with himself and his own driver in Parc Fermé.
I think they prefer a selfie to, I think was it Saudi or maybe Bahrain, where Zak Brown comes up behind Oscar Piastri and grabs him and lifts him up into the air, and I think took the wind out of him slightly there. And looking at Piastri, well, looks like he had to work hard for that one. Temperatures have been high here. The humidity as well really amplifies it too. Track temp at the end of this Grand Prix, 34 degrees. Current air temperature, 25 degrees. So they have got to work hard and keep as cool as they can.
Yeah, I mean, make no mistake, you know, I said that he was keeping it under control and he's a cool customer, but the concentration required to drive these cars lap after lap for 57 laps around this street circuit. There are some very, very tight bits with walls that can jump out on you if you're not concentrating, so it does require enormous amount of focus, but they're super fit. They will get hot in those cars. I mean, as you can imagine, the sun is pretty strong, even though he only had it for one lap.
Right at the end when it matters.
It is very humid here. It's difficult to cool off.
Yeah, that rain never really came that we were promised. I think we could have done with maybe a little light sprinkling towards the end, but actually there was enough in that race to get excited about. I would actually say that's probably one of the best Miami Grand Prix we've had over the course of the 4 years now. Would you agree?
Yeah. Well, I think they've it's coming good, isn't it? I think. Now, wait a minute. Has someone won from the front? No one has won from the front row. Continues. So that statistic continues, and so the anomaly of Miami persists. But it was an exciting race. I thought it was fantastic, especially the first half of the race, and it kept going with a bit of pressure towards the end. And the fans seem to love it. We're watching pictures of the fans in the stadium. It's very incredible complex here.
Well, let's hear from our top three at the end of the Miami Grand Prix. They're going to be speaking to the 2009 Formula One World Champion Jenson Button, who's just gearing up down in the Parc Fermé area. Oscar Piastri, Lando Norris and George Russell, your top three at the end of 57 laps of hard racing in the Grand Prix. I think George Russell is just waiting for the signal. He's got the microphone in his hand. Seems a bit too relaxed, I think.
To be fair, it was Kimi's idea. He was like, brake tested.
We could hear a little bit. They're on their way.
George, P3. Not a bad result considering most of the weekend you felt you haven't really got to grips with the car around Miami.
Yeah, to be honest, really happy to come away with P3 because I've been struggling this weekend personally and always on the back foot, but ultimately when it mattered, got a really good result today. But well done to the McLaren. They're just down the road.
Yeah, obviously lucked in a little bit on the safety car. But the end of the race, you had to keep Max behind you. It's never an easy challenge.
No, it's not, but I was pretty calm and I felt really good within the car to keep him behind me, so it was good. I think Lando's a bit upset with me because we had a bit of a crash on the Lego race this morning. I gave him a bit of an injured leg, so I don't know if he's gonna complain at me for something or...
So George, what was your favourite race of the day here in Miami?
Oh, without a doubt the race this morning, the Lego race. That was awesome too. We need to do that every race.
Congratulations, George.
Thank you.
Lando, take a seat, gentlemen.
I'm all right.
I've
just sat for 2 hours. So.
Yeah, because it was easy work out there.
It was.
Congratulations. It's a P2. A formidable job by the whole team to get both cars 30 seconds in front of the rest of the field. It must hurt a little bit.
Yeah. I mean, it's never the best feeling, but the team have done an amazing job, so I can't fault them at all. Good pit stops, great pace. We were up the road, so it was a good feeling. But Oscar drove well. Max put up a good fight as always, and I paid the price. But it's the way it is.
So, was it too inviting to go around the outside of Max in turn two? Obviously, it was always going to get narrow, especially with Max.
What can I say? If I don't go for it, people complain. If I go for it, people complain. So you can't win. But it's really it's the way it is with Max. It's crash or don't pass, and unless you get it really right and you put him in the perfect position, then you can just about get there. But I paid the price for not doing a good enough job today. But I'm so happy with second.
The important thing is that you did what you thought was right.
Sorry?
So the important thing is that you did what was right for you.
That's what I did because I thought
exactly.
That's what I should do.
Well done.
Cheers, man. Cheers.
Oscar. The sprint race didn't quite go your way, obviously with the safety car, but you won the Grand Prix here in Miami.
Yeah, I won the race that I really wanted to, so yesterday was a tricky day. Obviously the sprint was what it was, but qualifying was probably one of my trickiest sessions for the year, and to come away with a win still on Sunday is an impressive result. So obviously there was a bit of argy-bargy at turn one, which helped me out a little bit, and then I was aware enough to avoid Max coming through in turn one. So from that point onwards, I knew that I had a good pace advantage, and clearly the car was unbelievable today.
For me, the big difference that I see from you from last year to now is the race pace, how you control a race. It seems that when we put Oscar in a lead of a Grand Prix, there's no looking back. You can control the pace from the time you get into the lead until the checkered flag.
Yeah, I think the first stint was really, really strong, and then the hard stint I was honestly struggling a little bit. So it was a good thing that I built that gap in the first stint. I think towards the end I started to get things a bit more back under control, but there's still definitely some things to work on from this afternoon. So I'm very happy with the win, very happy with the points, but constantly got to keep learning. So very, very happy to be leaving Miami on top.
The last one is about the team. Have you got any comments about the team that have given you this absolute weapon?
It's just incredible, the hard work that's gone in. I remember 2 years ago here in Miami, we were genuinely the slowest team. I think we got lapped twice, and to now have won the Grand Prix by over 35 seconds to third is an unbelievable result, and the hard work of every single person. Firstly, the people here at the factory, but here at the track, but everyone at the factory as well.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Your race winner, Oscar Piastri, alongside second place Lando Norris and George Russell, completing the podium after a tough afternoon out there. 57 laps around this Miami International Autodrome. And I think Jenson Button said it there, Damon. What's really impressive about Oscar Piastri, the car is obviously good, but Piastri has really stepped up in all areas of his racecraft for this season.
Yes, he's matured into a very formidable competitor and a force within Formula One. I think that he looked a little bit forlorn sometimes in the last couple of years when he was beaten fairly comprehensively by his teammate. He knew he had the pace, he knew he had to work harder, and I think he's put a lot of hard work into tidying up the rough edges and learning the things he needs to learn, and that's what he's really talking about, I think, is that he's progressed, as has the team, as he made a fantastically a powerful point there that they lapped, whatever it was, twice 2 years ago or so in McLaren. So that's how quick, that's the measure of how much work this team have put in. That doesn't come about just by waking up one morning and having a good idea. They go to work every day at Woking, and they've been pressing on like nothing on earth, and this is a reward for their hard work. Their car was in the race was superb. I mean, it's as much as you can hope for to be 30 seconds in the
Well, let's head down to Jenny Gow, who's talking to Mercedes team boss Toto Wolff.
I am, Toto. Are you happy with that? I mean, a third place for George Russell, sixth for Kimi Antonelli.
Happy that George drove a great race today, to be honest with everything. They took everything out of the car that was there, but not happy with overall the performance levels. McLaren is just in a different league. We've seen that. We've seen Verstappen there. We've seen Mercedes' car, having these kind of gaps, but it's just not satisfying.
What can you do now with that gap being? It looks just so big, doesn't it?
Work on performance on the car. It's all in how quick you can go around the corners without overheating the tires. That's the formula in Formula One at the moment.
Just looking at Russell, his results have been stealthy. He's in third place. He looks in pretty impressive form at the moment, driving very well.
Yeah, driving very well, and you can see on a difficult race like this one, where you have to judge the tires right, where to push, how to manage, not to lose a position. That was a very mature driving, and it shows how good he is.
Just one final word on Kimi. He's standing just behind you. A really up and down weekend, so much height at the pole for the sprint race, but it didn't come off. How do you go forward with him? What do you do next?
It's normal. He's a young driver. That he will always have stellar performances. Like on a single lap, he's really good, and on the race, he just needs to be able to manage it a little bit. But that's going to come. That's an experience thing.
Okay, thank you so much.
Jenny Gow speaking to team principal of Mercedes, Toto Wolff, whose drivers finished third and sixth. Anthony holding on from late pressure from the Ferrari of Charles Leclerc and Lewis Hamilton. Worth noting as we wait for the podium, there are some investigations inbound, as well as Sainz and Gasly, who are being investigated for yellow flag infringements. The stewards are going to look at that last lap clash between Carlos Sainz and Lewis Hamilton. So we'll make sure we bring you updates on those decisions as and when we get them, if we're still on air, or indeed you can look out for the BBC Sport website to keep up to date with all the latest as the track invasion begins out onto the circuit. Running are the fans to try and get a view of the podium celebrations, which are about to get underway, overlooked by the canopy of the Hard Rock Stadium, home to the Miami Dolphins NFL team. This weekend turned into a Formula One racetrack that runs around the service and public roads that make up this incredible venue. And George Russell steps out into the sunlight, a wave to the crowd as he celebrates his fourth podium of the season. Third place secured for George Russell. standing on the second step of the rostrum. Lando Norris won the sprint race yesterday, couldn't quite see the top step again. That goes to his teammate Oscar Piastri, who takes his 4th victory of the season and who extends his lead in the World Championship. The young Australian, looking mighty and formidable in that McLaren, takes to the top step as we listen to the national anthem of Australia. The Australian national anthem for the winning driver, followed by the British national anthem for the winning team, McLaren, who take a 1-2. And while the podium ceremony continues and the trophies are handed out, let's head down to Jeddy Gow, who's speaking to the team principal of McLaren, Andrea Stella.
Well, it didn't feel that eventful for you guys. I think that was probably what you wanted, wasn't it? 1-2?
Definitely what we wanted. P1, P2 for McLaren. It's P1, P2 that follows the P1, P2 in the sprint. So we couldn't ask for more in this sprint weekend in Miami. It was just apparently calm. We had the weather threats at multiple times, especially at the start of the race, which meant we needed to pay quite a lot of attention also as to what we did with the strategy. And then we needed to follow very closely the activity between our two drivers, think about what we do under safety cars, and see whether Lando was in condition to regain the time that he had lost. So, yeah, busier than it might have appeared, and certainly great satisfaction. I'm very happy for our two drivers, the team trackside, and the entire team at the factory that delivered such a superb car, which today was quite dominant.
I mean, you do seem streaks ahead of your competitors and rivals at the moment. How do you keep on developing and making sure you keep that gap?
Well, that's the ethos, that's the passion, that's the motivation that we have, and we are working on the upgrades that will make it in a few races. So we do have upgrades for this car. Hopefully we are genuinely gonna make it faster, because already looks like it's quite fast. And that's the nature of the business. You never stop trying for the best, for the better. And from this point of view, I'm just proud to be leading a great team, a great group of people.
And just finally, how do you manage this situation going forward? Because obviously you've got Oscar, he'll be delighted, but Lando will obviously be frustrated that he couldn't get that start and go. Well,
definitely Lando will be frustrated. But ultimately it's a situation that, let's call it like a racing situation. Sometimes it doesn't work for you, like it happened today to Lando. Sometimes it will work in his favor. I think what's important with Lando is that the pace throughout the weekend has been really strong. and this is the most important thing to look forward to the future, while Oscar has confirmed that he is a very solid veteran in Formula One.
Well, I'm going to have a party.
Cool. Thank you.
Andrea Stella there, who, Damon Hill threatening more upgrades for McLaren. I don't think the teams will be too happy to hear that.
Well, it's good, but we can make it better. Yeah, so he's obviously very satisfied, but he's absolutely right. You cannot stand still. You stand still, you go backwards in Formula One. But it's a bit of a blow to everyone listening that they even think they've got things they can do to make this car better. Of course, at the same time, they've got to work on the 26 car, which is a completely different concept. So this is one of the challenges that makes Formula One teams utterly incredible, the ability they have to fight two wars at the same time.
Maximum points available this weekend, 58. How many points did McLaren score? 58. 1-2 in the sprint, 1-2 in the Grand Prix. BBC F1 correspondent Andrew Benson, you're still with us. What's the top line for the article for the BBC Sport website? What are you taking away from the Miami Grand Prix?
Well, I mean, it's just a report, Harry, obviously. So say that Piastri's won 3 in a row for...
Okay, what's the follow-up article?
4th in 6 races. I don't know yet. I have to go and speak to all the people in the paddock if you'll ever let me out of the commentary box.
Absolutely not, no.
Yeah, I mean, look, it's just very impressive from McLaren, isn't it? Both drivers drove extremely well to make up the lost ground. I think Lando Norris might go away from Miami, ruining that decision on the first lap to challenge Max Verstappen in the way that he did. I think if you're going to challenge Max Verstappen, you've got to accept that he's going to play hardball with you, especially on the first lap when the racing guidelines don't apply quite so strictly. And you've got to absolutely be sure that you're in a position to pass him if you're going to put yourself alongside him. If you don't, and you're not really there, he's going to run you off the track, and that's exactly what happened, and that's what cost Norris the victory today, basically. Piastri sat back and watched that happen and thought, thank you very much, and then drove a very, very impressively clinical race, as he always does. Clean overtaking moves, dealt with Verstappen with calmness, and he deserved his win, but it was one that Norris really should have taken himself.
But Damon, is Lando Norris damned if he does, damned if he doesn't, in a way, when it comes to fighting with Max Verstappen?
Well, he said he was, but actually I think if he looks at that, he will say exactly what Andrew just said. You don't put yourself in a desperate situation round the outside hoping you're going to get given enough room with Max Verstappen. You have to be properly ahead of him before you can do that. You can't be alongside, nearly a nose ahead. He wasn't even a nose ahead. So I do think sometimes the lightning fast or the instinctive overtake ability of Lando sometimes needs a little bit of work on. I think that Max probably has more respect for Oscar in a wheel-to-wheel battle. I think he's a little bit more decisive, and maybe Lando has been intimidated by Max too many times.
Well, that will continue to be a talking point. Jenny Gow down in the paddock in the pit lane, roaming across that race. What do you take away from this?
Well, you can never predict the weather in Miami, that's for sure. We did expect rain yesterday, we got it. We expected rain today, none came. So I think we got away with that, but I think it would have been more interesting if it had given us a bit of a burst of rain. But how good is Oscar Piastri? That's all I'm going to say.
Absolutely. How good is he? So good. Well, we'll see what he's got in a couple of weeks' time. We'll have a week off before Formula One's European leg begins, and we'll start it in Imola for the Emilia-Romagna Grand Prix. My thanks to Jenny Gow, to Andrew Benson, to 1996 Formula One World Champion Damon Hill. We'll see you next time. Stephen Nolan's on the way after the news.
The voice of the